Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 500. And Mr. Grizzly,
That's a good question. 72? Is it 572? 573, sorry.
573, yes, 73 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crime Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. And I think it's going to be an okay day here at the Beaver Lodge. Doesn't seem to be too gray so far this morning, but I'm not seeing any bright sunshine either. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, A. And with me is my good friend. Thankfully, with me is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. And before I ask you, how's your mental health today, Mr. Grizzly, I just want to let the kids and cubs know that we had a little chuckle pre-show because you were telling me that you finally got a little bit of sleep, and I'm sure it looks like you did get some sleep. And I was rubbing under here because I noticed before we started on the show that I had big bags under my eyes, so I was like smoothing them out. And I'm going, oh my god, I brought my Louis Vuittons with me. And Mr. Grizzly,
Louis Vuitton's in season, so it's okay.
did I pick the right guy or not? Did I pick the right guy or not?
I don't know.
It's the perfect marriage. He pays me compliments and we don't have sex.
I didn't see that one coming at all.
How's your mental health today, my friend?
Markedly better than yesterday. Yesterday was a low point. It was serious major depressive episode to the point where which is why I wasn't sleeping. One of those when you get to the point where you don't give a damn about anything, and all you're thinking is, when will this day just end?
Yep.
Not my life. I mean, the day ends.
The day. Yep.
Get to sleep and get on with tomorrow. That was what yesterday was. It was the day. Late in the evening, we were watching. I needed something to laugh about, so I watched a movie I haven't watched since it came out 22 years ago. Bruce Almighty.
Yes.
And it has some incredible laughs in it, and laughter does help when you're feeling that way. So I had a few good laughs, and then I went to bed shortly thereafter. I didn't do an ASMR because I just wasn't up to speaking yesterday. I wasn't social at all yesterday, and I'm a social animal. But when the depression hits hard like that, it's you don't have energy to do anything. You don't want to do anything. You just want the pain to stop. And I'd say I'm about Yesterday I was at about a -5. Today I'm at about a 75. So a huge improvement. So we'll see
Okay.
how the day progresses from there.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with depression other than the situational episode after my mom died,
hmm
but I think we've all had days, and I've had them. It's like, yep, 7:30. Yeah, I'm calling it. This day's done. I'm going to bed now. That's it. It's like, so yeah, but add to that, several days over a period of a month of not sleeping well, and then when you're not sleeping well, migraines, and sometimes both at the same time.
hmm
Yay! Yeah, that's a lot for anyone. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
I
just haven't, no sleep, and you get the winter blahs, and then you
that
pile
too.
up, and then all of the negative energy around the world right now.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't help your situation.
Blue Monday was January 20th. Actually, we were 1
Yeah.
week early when we were mentioning it on the show.
Mhm.
Because we mentioned it on Monday the 13th, so we thought it's like, all right. From my end, doing okay. Um, as you know, I spent a decent amount of time at the Outdoor Beaver Lodge last week, and I
Mhm.
actually got back last night. Took 3 hours and 20 minutes to get back last night with the weather
Oh, yeah, it was
instead of 2 hours and 5.
yeah, I can
Um,
imagine you'd have to go a lot slower last night. It
yeah,
was
we we
pretty
went a lot.
treacherous.
Yeah, we went a lot slower. Um, again, I was exhausted. Half the stuff I planned to do, I didn't. I slept. I slept so much. I think 2 of the nights I was, and I very rarely sleep a full night, right? I have insomnia. Yep.
Mhm.
There were 2 of the night I was asleep before 9, and I think, like, woke up maybe, like, around midnight to go to the bathroom and fell immediately asleep again and was asleep till 5. I think like, right through 2 of the 5 nights I was there. That never happens, ever. So I took it, but, it's I don't know, it's sometimes it's like, and it's not until you actually get some time actually alone
Mhm.
that you realize how tired you actually are. So it's to me, it was just sort of like, okay, I got these couple of days because there was no curling on Wednesday last week because we were hosting the Ontario Under 20 Championships. So the arena was all of that. So, and Thursday and Friday, and I had a couple of things I had to do, some medical appointments that I needed to take care of. So I fit them in, and I was going to stay on the weekend and then skate on the canal, and then come back home. And I had an audition, and it's like, yeah, it's and I thought, okay, that's all I've got on going on. So, I have dinner with friends and I'll go see this movie, I'll see this show. And it's like, sleep. That's all I did was sleep. Oh man. So I was surprised with the Louis Vuittons uh this morning because I thought, gee man, it's like if I can't look rested now. But I think it's more the early soon after you wake up bags, and sort of like your clothes when they're wrinkled a little bit and you sort of wear them through the day and the wrinkles wear out. I think that's probably what's happening here. The kits demand glamour. I have to maintain it. All right, kits and cubs. Well.
Things are getting weird.
Okay, 2 things happened yesterday, and as how would I put it? There are 2 narratives to what happened yesterday. One involves Pierre Poilievre, and one involves the whole thing with the tariffs. And something happened yesterday because I think Pierre Poilievre, well, one, he's noticed that everybody's noticed that he's unable to pivot.
Yes,
So now he actually is trying to
desperately
pivot.
trying to. He's
Like,
treading water.
and not pivot in the sense that, well, it was carbon tax Trudeau, so now it's carbon tax Carney and carbon tax Christian, carbon tax Clark and carbon tax this and a carbon tax under a tree, and you get a carbon tax and you get a carbon tax, we all get a carbon tax. Yeah.
Can we say
Right.
obsessed?
Right. So it's not going to be that, and it's not going to be whatever his or her name is or their name is. I'm fighting Justin Trudeau. So about 2 or 3 times he said Canada will never be the 51st state, and
Mhm.
that's about it.
Yeah.
And then finally, the other day, he came out with a 7-point plan and then was followed by some video yet again. And yesterday, I said, I don't want to read his 7-point plan because I don't want to give him more airtime. But I thought of a way to do it because without reading all the blah, 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 blah around it, we could just look at the points. Right? So, 1, retaliate with dollar-for-dollar tariffs carefully aimed at maximizing impact on American companies while minimizing impact on Canadian consumers. Everybody has said that already.
Isn't that what we've been saying all along?
All along. Right? That's what had Danielle Smith losing her mind.
Yes.
Especially when we were concluding dollar-for-dollar tariffs on oil specifically. Continues, that means targeting U.S. products that we can make ourselves, buy elsewhere, or do without. Yeah. For example, we must retaliate against American steel and aluminum as Canadians can make those vital products at home. Yeah. Isn't that what... But and a lot of these things are things that we did last time, too. Remember things that he said a couple of months ago were dumb? When we started building the same Team Canada approach that we used last time that was successful for us, because last time it wasn't about winning anything, right? It wasn't about not taking any losses. Because you have to remember now, this is the second time in 7 years that this guy wants to reopen a deal that's supposed to be a deal.
Right.
And this time it's his own deal. Last time it was the old NAFTA deal that he didn't have any part in, but this time it's his own deal he's going back on. His own word, and his own word as the President of the United States, which is the word of the United States. This is a whole other level, right? That's why you'll be hearing stories now about the European Union starting to get together because now he seems to be wanting to go after them too. So, Number 2, put all the tariff revenues into help for affected workers and businesses. Government should not keep a dime of the new revenue. Yeah, like everybody's been saying already. This right? Is, again, the fight is not going to be about whether or not the government keeps any of the money or not. It's going to be how the money is redistributed. Hey, I didn't get my fair share enough and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, yeah, that was the plan. That's why you do the countervailing tariffs, to put them all in the pool and then redistribute it to the people who are the most effective. That's the... Were you awake when we did this last time Trump was president, Pierre? No. I'm just asking. You like to ask that question, particularly female journalists, so I figured I'd ask it of you. Were you awake when it happened? 3, pass a massive emergency bring it home tax cut to bolster the economy, stop inflation, and save and create jobs. Canada needs a massive tax cut on work, investment, energy, home building, and making stuff at home. The liberal carbon tax and capital gains tax hikes must be the first on the chopping block. Ah. Okay. Christopher Freeland has already said that she's going against the
Mark Carney said the same thing.
Exactly. Same thing with the carbon tax. I don't know if Mark Carney said anything. Yeah, he did about the capital gains tax too, right?
Yes.
I think so. Nobody's going to call it a bring it home tax cut. So stop that, Gretchen. That ain't happening. And in Ontario, the Ontario election, Bonnie Crombie is warning on a middle class tax cut that Doug Ford has not talked anything about tax cuts whatsoever. So again, tax cuts are already in the mix. In fact, I think Mark Carney was on TV the other day saying that about the carbon thing, because you, Skippy, just want to kill the whole program and then do nothing about the consequences. So the people that lose the rebates, you will do nothing to keep them whole, and you will do nothing to replace the emissions. So you will do nothing. Whereas Mark Carney is making the point, well, you still got to do something, and you can't leave Canadians worse off. So he's going to do a program that functions by incentives, rather. So if you want to do something, there'll be additional savings and help and support and subsidies for you, and broader other measures that he's going to announce, because that will be another policy. But I'm going to guess that has something to do with income taxes and other types of things, to compensate, to make sure that the money that they were getting from the carbon tax rebate stays in Canadians' pockets. So somebody else is already talking about the income side of things for Canadians before you came out with this. And your solution, again, is once again, massive tax cut. Because the tax cut is the solution to everything when you're conservative, right?
Yes.
If the conservatives instituted tax cuts every single time, or if everybody whatever the government is today instituted a tax cut every time a conservative asked for a tax cut, so we would have negative tax rates by now.
Mhm. Yeah, the government would be paying us a UBI.
There would be a limit. Taxes are finite. You can only cut them back so much before things start to fall apart. And you can only cut them back so much before there's no more.
Does Pierre Poilievre forget who pays his salary?
Mm-hmm.
Taxes.
Yep. 4. And his future pension as well. 4. Immediately scrap the liberal anti-resource law C-69 and greenlight LNG plants, pipelines, mines, factories, and port expansions to overseas markets. This is dumb. Now, port expansions, maybe some stuff with mines and stuff like that, but immediately greenlight. No, you can't do that. But you can do, as Premier Tim Houston in Nova Scotia has just announced, that he's going to try to speed up the processes, see where you can avoid some duplication, that type of stuff, or have more staff on it to prioritize so that more stuff can get evaluated quickly. Who knows? But there are some ways to move some processes along to make them a little more effective. But immediately scrap C-69? No. And immediately greenlight plans for these things? Some of these things, by the way, right, will take so long to actually approve and build. And of course, if there was a 25% tariff, these would now all be 25% more expensive to build, if there was at the time he proposed these things. But just build these pipelines, build these mines. Like, it doesn't matter if we don't have markets for these things yet. Just build them. And then by the time we build them, the economic situation has changed. And here again on this, if we are looking at a future, let's say, where we were going to do the retaliation on oil and gas, and the United States, over a period of 4 or 5 or 6 years, did find other markets, but we did too. Wouldn't that be a great time if we're going to spend the amount of money that it would take to greenlight LNG plants, pipelines? Let's say those two, because mines, factories, and port expansions to overseas markets or other things. But all the LNG plans and the pipelines and maybe a refinery or two or all that kind of stuff. What if we put all that into the solar and wind and tidal and small nuclear reactor instead of trying to keep an old industry alive? Why not look at this as the catalyst to go all in on the energy of future rather than dumping everything that we have in our pockets and borrowing to put into the energy of the past?
Well, and the energy of the past is largely that energy of the past. Oil will not disappear anytime soon. We still need oil. Period. I mean, go into a hospital and half the stuff in there is petroleum-based products.
Right.
So oil's not disappearing from the planet anytime soon, but we'll have to start recycling a lot more plastics, number one. And number two, alternative energy sources is the key. And solar has surpassed oil when it comes to affordability.
I know.
Producing more for less.
So he's saying, let's put this war effort and throw it all into the stuff we pulled out of the ground rather than the stuff that we are going to be using in the future so that we can export that. It's such a boneheaded plan if you're supposed to be looking towards the future. 4 is just dumb. Now, mines, yes, because we have critical minerals. Factories, especially if maybe we're going to start transforming more things here for a change rather than just shipping them off. That would be nice.
It would be
maybe
nice.
Okay there. Port expansions, hey, yes. If our oil and our gas and our potash and all the things that Trump says he doesn't need, our lumber, our steel, whatnot, if we're going to be sending it to Vietnam or Philippines or Indonesia, we just signed a free trade deal with them. Hey, we also have a free trade deal with Ecuador now. That one just came down yesterday. On the day that Trump was going to slap new tariffs, or had temporarily for a while. Hey, look, Canada, we have a new free trade deal with another nation.
Well, I think we should start
Indonesia was just announced a couple of weeks ago.
We should start opening up talks with Brazil as well.
There's
almost 200 million people that live in Brazil.
South Africa, the BRICS nations, except for China and Russia, essentially. We've already got the EU and every other G7 nation, and Indonesia now, Ecuador now, and like 11 CPTPP nations. And I don't know if the stuff that Argentina's gone now, but I don't know if what we had with Chile when we were trying to do the free trade of the Americas things for a while. We had a little deal with Chile on, they were included in there. I don't know if that's still working, and we got plenty to explore with Mexico. We haven't even begun to explore that relationship.
Well, and this is true because there's 190 million people in Mexico. Let me just check.
Yeah, it's one of the world's fastest growing economies, Mexico. It's going to surpass us. We have the 10th largest economy, and it's not going to be long before Mexico surpasses us in terms of size, just because they've got 190 million people.
According to this, current population of Mexico is 131 million. I thought it was more.
Okay, but we are in on the ground floor in that relationship.
Oh yes, yeah.
Right? We are in on the ground floor in that relationship. We're talking about diversifying our markets. There's one right there, close enough by that we can, if we could shift, I don't know, 10 to 15% of the trade that we got with the United States to direct trade with Mexico. That might not be a bad thing.
137,450,555. 49.3% is male, 50.7% is female.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty even split for the most part.
Yep. All right. Number 5, bring in truly free trade within Canada by knocking down interprovincial barriers to help replace lost north-south trade with east-west trade and to make us self-reliant. We have been talking about that every year of my frickin' life and have not been able to get it done.
Yeah.
I guess, and people have been calling for that as well for a few weeks. Say, hey, this would be a perfect opportunity. I mean, we mentioned it on the show before Pierre opened his mouth. Because we're even able to tell you what it was calculated as, right? To about 2 to 2.5% of GDP. Some that are like, they think that we can save maybe even up to 3% by doing away with this. And it's not like some of these things are not necessarily tariffs per se, but just, rules and stuff like that make it harder for things to go, or people to be mobile from one province to another, that could be eliminated relatively quickly. 6, rebuild our military and take back control of our borders to regain the confidence of our partners, assert our sovereignty, protect our people, and put Canada first. Well, I don't know if Skippy was sleeping again, but Minister Blair, I think, announced that we were moving up the 2% from 2032 to 2027. That was done again, I don't know where Skippy was when he announced that was happening, but clearly he didn't hear it.
He only hears what he
really,
wants.
really, really deep in the hole into hiding. So, and then he goes another blah, 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 like this. And it's sort of like, these are 6, I thought it was a 7-point plan, 6-point plan then. So all these things have been said by someone else, groups of someone else's, have been done before, were things that we did the last time. None of this is new, and he's presenting as a 6. And let's call back Parliament so that we can put in force my 6-point plan that I called for, but I still can't say whether or not I would allow Parliament to operate long enough to actually pass my 6-point plan that I'm demanding. It's like, that's the second
exactly
part of it. That was the point. Yes. So yesterday he had a press conference.
I have a Q&A session queued up here to go.
You've got the Q&A session queued up?
Yeah.
Okay. If you got it up to the Q&A, I will do what came before, because there's no point. No point in showing the whole thing.
No, it's just more gibberish.
Okay.
He's trying to look like a strong man here. I'll give him credit. He's trying really hard, but he's lying through his teeth.
Yeah. So 1, he looks awful.
Yeah, he does.
in this. All right.
Stressed, definitely.
Okay. He opens up. See, the reason I want to show, you know what, actually, I think this one, even though I do not want to, it's because he does something in this
I have the CPAC.
that so blew my mind. You got the CPAC one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I believe he starts in English around 9 minutes and 48 because he does the whole thing in French first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about right about there.
I was listening to him, and he starts off, and I'm thinking, oh God, it's going to be this thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because he starts off and you think, okay, finally he's going to get it, right? He's coming to show us that he's pivoting, and he goes right in to validating all the claims that Donald Trump has been making.
Yes.
So it's like right off the bat, he's not with us. He's not with us. He hasn't got nothing on tariffs. So he's telling us that he believes that we are a shithole country. The abuser in this abusive relationship is trying to get us to hate ourselves again. I don't know if I had showed you a graph, or that was a day you were not there, Mr. Grizzly, but Frank Graves showed us a graph of Canadians' attachment to their country. And it was in the 70s, around the time of the Quebec referendum of 1995, pretty steadily in the 60s since then. And then it dropped, I think, to 32 or something like that, like really low. And you could just see it go off a cliff. Mm-hmm. Boom. And then Trump gets elected, and we hear all that stuff, and you see it bounce right back up to 52. So from that low point, who got us to that low point? Who was whispering in our ear every single opportunity he had how much we sucked and we were broken? That fucker, pardon my language, Pierre Poilievre, he got us to hate ourselves. Greater than half the country did not feel any particular attachment to Canada. Their identity is Canadian. Donald Trump kind of fixed that. And he came out and tried to tell us that we were not good enough anymore, that no one would love us. That's what he came out to do in this damn thing. And then he says something that blew my mind. And I'm not going to reveal it. I'm going to let you hear it. And this was like a, no. Mr. Grizzly, if you would.
Let me just cue up start of the Anglo here. I want to make sure I have it. Somewhere past the 10-minute mark. Here we go. I've got it queued up now. Okay. I'll go right from the start of his diatribe.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. We must put Canada first. And that is why common sense conservatives condemn President Trump's massive, unjust, and unjustified tariffs, which will damage both American and Canadian economies. Canada is the United States' closest friend, greatest ally, and most important neighbor. We share the longest undefended border. We fought alongside the Americans in 2 world wars, Korea, and Afghanistan, where we lost 158 of our brilliant young men and women to avenge the attacks of 9/11 on New York and Washington. There is no justification whatsoever for these tariffs or this treatment. Canada will never be the 51st state. We are an independent, proud, and strong nation. I'd like to speak first to our American friends. You are our friends. You are our neighbors. We share the longest undefended border in the history of the world. You buy our products, and we buy yours. You have a trade surplus with us when energy is excluded. And when it is included, the deal is even better for you because you buy our oil and our gas at massive price discounts. Not because we're nice Canadians, but because here at home we've made really dumb.
They don't buy our gas. They buy oil and then refine it. I mean, that's factually incorrect. They don't buy our gas unless he's referring to natural gas.
Yeah. Now, up until here, right? Pretty much the right things.
Yes.
Now, I will note here that when he says, takes his initial position, right? He's the last of anybody to come out to do that, dead last, and with a day pause or two in between to come up and get to this position, right? When he's saying, that the tariffs are unacceptable. He invokes Afghanistan and 9/11. The Prime Minister did that the other night when he addressed the nation.
Yeah.
First, Canada is an independent, proud, and strong nation, he says. Remember that for what comes next. And Mr. Grizzly, you'll have to back it up for a couple of seconds because he's about to do something right after he says all this stuff. Okay. Aren't you the Canada's broken guy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Now he says Canada is an independent, proud, and strong nation. Right? Immediately before, watch how he's going to talk about us. Okay. So put a pin in that. Then he says, I want to speak first to our American friends, which is exactly the same that the Prime Minister did when he addressed the nation on Saturday. We share the longest undefended border, he opens with.
Yes.
Put a pin in that one. Okay? That's going to be relevant later. So the two things that are going to be relevant later, Canada is an independent, proud, and strong nation, and we share the longest undefended border. So far, he's copying the Prime Minister's speech on Saturday.
The man has never had an original thought.
Except when it comes to all the facts that he's mentioning that are true. But notice how he's having trouble getting them out smoothly, right? It's almost like he's choking on these facts. That it pains him to say them out loud.
Of course it does.
Right.
When energy is excluded. And when it is included, the deal is even better for you because you buy our oil and our gas at massive price discounts. Not because we're nice Canadians, but because here at home we've made really dumb decisions to prevent us from exporting our energy to any other countries. But either way, Americans are better off with this friendship. We share a continent, we share the same risks and the same potential enemies from around the world. Those kinds of enemies can metastasize into real dangers and actual attacks, as you saw suddenly and unexpectedly on 9/11. It's good to have friends when those sorts of things happen. And let me ask my American friends this question. Even if you believe in tariffs, how is it possible to put a 25% tariff on Canada and only a 10% tariff on China? In what strategic mindset does that make sense? If it's to do with fentanyl, the fentanyl's coming from China. It's killing our people too. We both have to do more to stop it, but we can do more when we do it together. Now, here at home, my message to the Liberal government: put aside partisan interests and recall Parliament. It is insane that in this great crisis, Parliament is shut down to deal with a crisis and a power struggle within the Liberal Party. Let's put aside partisan, political interests and recall Parliament to pass into place a common sense Canada First plan. And here's that plan.
Okay, well,
1, we must retaliate dollar for dollar.
So he's going to go into the whole thing I mentioned here. Okay, so notice, right? When I said pay attention, Canada's a strong, independent nation like this. We made some really dumb decisions. But anyway, talks us down and transitions it out of it. But anyway, the United States is better off with this deal. Pierre Poilievre, you were in government for about 10 years. What did y'all do to make sure that we did not have to deal with only the United States as a customer for? Oh, yeah. You got Supreme Court decisions, fought them, decided not to follow the justices' recommendations, raised a lot of money on the fact that they were activist judges getting in the way, gutted tons of environmental laws, raised more money on that, and got not a millimeter of pipeline to tide water built.
Yeah.
And allowed so much time to go by that the business cases for all the other projects that you keep on saying it was Justin Trudeau that canceled them to go bad. Energy East was not Justin Trudeau that canceled it. There was no case, and Quebec did not want it crossing its territory whatsoever.
And the Keystone Pipeline was killed by Biden. So
there's Northern Gateway if you want, but you guys don't want to negotiate with Indigenous people. You just want to. So, I mean, you guys are in your own way on that one. I mean, all you have to do is listen to what the Supreme Court said. That's what Justin Trudeau did, and he was able to get TMX built, and I'm sure that's burning the cap right through your ass.
Yes.
Because he got done in 7 years what you guys couldn't in 10. And now you're standing in front of a mic and saying, we need to do this. Well, your guys are not. If we did need to do that, you are not the people we need to give that job to, because you did not get it done.
Do it. Yeah. You proved to us already once that you do not have the ability.
During that damn decade, you didn't do anything because you didn't think it was a problem. You pulled it out of the ground and you shipped it down as easily as you could to the places near it. You took a profit. You put your feet up on the desk. You said, my God, aren't we excellent managers? And nobody here knew any better because we never tried to do anything different. And you never planned for the fact that our biggest consumer would become our biggest competitor. That happened after 9/11. And after that, you still didn't plan for a day that maybe they would reach self-sufficiency in some way or go rogue on us, right? And never diversified our markets. Never thought, because you had it like that, you had it good, and people thought that you guys had one party rule in Alberta for just taking something out of the ground and shipping it off and saying, hey, aren't we great? That's it. Well, the game has changed, honey. The game has changed. There are more nations in the world. We're going to be a multipolar world. And just ripping it out of the ground and shipping it out isn't going to be good enough. We're going to have to start transforming things.
Well, let's remember something, too, that the refineries that receive oil sands oil were built specifically to refine that product.
Yes.
So shale oil, the stuff they get from fracking, can't go through those refineries.
Yes. They export that and make money off that and then use our oil to heat.
Correct. So you do understand that if we say, all right, we're putting a 25% tariff on everything with the exception of oil, and they 10% oil tariff, I think is hilarious. It's like, dude, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face.
And you're showing us where your weak spot is.
You realize refineries will shut down. People will lose jobs. Your economy will be negatively affected. But hey, go ahead, because we can send that oil elsewhere. You know that, eh? Oh, and did you hear anything about the minerals that we have in this country? The vast majority of the second largest landmass on Earth that is a sovereign nation that hasn't even explored the vast majority for minerals, for oil, for diamonds, for all of the things the whole world wants. We have more of it than anyone.
Steel.
Guess what? We haven't even exploited a third of it, a 16th of it, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. I think steel, aluminum, softwood lumber, and uranium, and I believe zinc are all things that we send in great amounts to the United States that they might have trouble replacing from somewhere else as well. Very, very important. No zinc, no EV car batteries. Also, no Botox for people who want that Mar-a-Lago look.
Well, and also let's not forget the importance of the radioisotopes used for cancer treatments.
Yes. That we had that thing a couple of years ago. I remember the rate got in trouble for saying the isotopes weren't sexy or something. Right. So yeah, for a country that doesn't have anything they need, he sure wants us to be a part of his a lot, though, right? Why don't you be the 51st state? Why don't you be the 51st state? You have nothing we need, but why don't you be the 51st state? Yeah, well, if we have nothing you need, why do you want us to be the 51st state so bad? It's like, if you think you're going to court us without flowers, dinner, and chocolate, buddy, but sorry, we just ain't that into you. You can maybe fast forward over the 6 points because it's just a rehash. So this guy again,
to them,
right?
Or if young
in this thing here,
Just trying to get to the Q&A.
yeah. No, not the Q&A. Not the Q&A. He's going to say the thing that after the 6 points, the thing that he wants us to do that blew my mind.
Oh, hang on. I'm not sure where that is.
Okay, then we could just keep it running then.
how is it possible?
Something
I don't know what's going with the
audio.
audio. That's really weird. Yeah, because it's not like that normally on that thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Something weird happened there. All right, we'll just keep running this.
On Canadian, we must maximize the impact on American companies while minimizing the impact on Canadian consumers and businesses. That means targeting U.S. products that A, we can do without, B, we can buy elsewhere, or C, best of all, that we can make here at home. A best example of that would be steel and aluminum. We make the best and cleanest steel and aluminum here, but we've lost a lot of jobs to China and the United States. We should put tariffs on American steel and aluminum so that we can bring home that production to this country. 2, the tariffs must not be a tax grab.
Even when he's talking about we make the best steel and aluminum like this, he looks like he's pissed off about it.
Yes. Well, he hates to admit that Canada is far from broken.
None of the money from the tariffs should stay in government coffers or be spent on unrelated government priorities. All of it should go back to the workers and businesses that are affected, and most of it should go back in the form of a massive tax cut. And that is why I'm calling for the passage of an immediate emergency bring it home tax cut. The tax cut would be designed to save jobs, create jobs, crush inflation, and boost our economy. We need to cut taxes on work, investment, energy, home building, and making stuff at home. Let's start by axing the Liberal carbon tax and the Liberal capital gains tax hike. They should be the first on the chopping block. 4, we must immediately scrap the Liberal anti-energy law C-69 and greenlight job-creating projects now. That includes LNG plants, pipelines, mines, factories, port expansions, so that we can get our products to overseas markets without going through and profiting the United States.
Okay.
It was insane for us.
I want to point out here that when he's describing the points, he's literally reading the points word for word that was in his tweet. He's not expanding. He's got no development. It's not like it's a PowerPoint presentation where he's talking about the point and then he can go into it and tell you how we're going to achieve this, what he does. He's just reading the same damn point. Yes, he can't go off script.
No, it's impossible with him.
And profiting the United States. It was insane for us to block our industries before this crisis. It is a fatal mistake now. No longer can we tolerate special interests, politicians, and worst of all, corporate lobbyists who profit.
Okay.
He's literally stringing together key words and trying to make sentences out of them and putting it all together, all the inflammatory words. He's literally saying nothing.
Who is it on the Hill who pulls all the strings behind the scenes? Jenny Byrne? What does she do again? She's a lobbyist for Loblaws.
And in what establishments are you hosting a lot of your 1,750 per person maximum? Oh yeah, the swanky residence here, or this private
ultra
residence
wealthy,
there, or
or a residence so large it has its own damn postal code. And how did that guy get that large residence? How did he earn his money? Private healthcare in the U.S., largely through United. Tell me an American, show me an American who has had a positive experience with their healthcare provider. One who does not work for the federal government.
Kit Lori Sue can tell you that they are few and far between.
Look, I know we have problems with healthcare up here. We can thank our premiers, conservative premiers in provinces that decided to elect a conservative as premier. We can thank them. We can also thank former Liberal leader Dalton McGuinty in the province of Ontario for not investing and cutting.
And charging us the biggest tax hike on top of that health premium, and then not putting all the money into health.
I just got a phone call yesterday from my optometrist saying I'm due for a checkup. And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's been a couple of years. Except it used to be covered under OHIP. Now it's $150. I can't afford that right now. So I'm going to have to go without for the time being. Thanks, Dalton McGuinty. Thanks.
Yep. And Albertans will soon have to Danielle Smith to thank, because she just took vision care away from seniors and kids.
Yeah. That's going to work.
While she was in Mar-a-Lago, while she was doing all that stuff in Washington, D.C. and Mar-a-Lago, that just kind of just happened.
That's going to work out well.
Okay.
By shutting down industries, blocking resources in Canada while profiting off them in Brazil, the Middle East, China, and elsewhere. We must bring home production and self-reliance to our country. Which brings me to 5. We need to knock down interprovincial trade barriers to have truly free trade across our country.
We've been talking about
we
that
are in
for
this
decades.
state because we sell twice as much to the Americans as we sell to ourselves. These interprovincial barriers.
Okay, if your conservative premiers could get together on this instead of cutting everything left, right, and center.
Yeah, right. Like 6 of the 10 of them are.
Yeah.
It's like, and they seem to be able. They seem to be able to.
What he's saying here, I do.
Yes.
Except nobody's ever got it done.
Yes, they seem to be all able to agree to leave the flaming bag of dog poop at Trudeau's doorstep. So maybe they can agree on a couple of interprovincial barriers while they're at it.
No, they're going to put this.
Be productive while you get together.
To the prime minister because they need to blame somebody instead of themselves. The finger of blame points directly at provincial premiers of whatever political stripe they are. None of them have ever done anything to eliminate interprovincial trade barriers. None of them, not once. I don't care if you're Green, Liberal, NDP, Bloc, PPC, or CPC. None of them have ever agreed on a damn thing to bring down interprovincial trade barriers. And I remember when they first started talking about NAFTA back in the mid-'80s, when Brian Mulroney was prime minister, I was listening to Peter Zosky's show, and he had a editorial about it. And he said, okay, I like the idea of this North American Free Trade Act. I like it. But here's the thing. I happen to like schooner beer, and I live in Ontario. I can't get schooner beer in Ontario. You can now, but you couldn't at the time.
Right.
You literally couldn't. He's like, couldn't I get a schooner without having to go to Nova Scotia to get it? Some barriers have been dropped. Not all of them, though.
Right.
You realize if you go to British Columbia and you go to a vineyard and you buy wine and you want them to ship it to you and you tell them you're in Ontario, they're like, I'm sorry, we can't do that. It's a trade violation. Literally a trade violation. You can buy a case and drive it back with you, but if you flew to British Columbia, you're not going to bring a case of wine on the aircraft.
Nope.
Because there's no duty free for that. All right, we'll continue.
Barriers are destructive. They kill jobs. They drive up consumer prices, and they cost the average family $6,000 a year. Let's knock them down, and let's be a truly free trading economy ourselves. 6, We must rebuild our military and take back control of our borders to regain the confidence of our partners, assert our sovereignty, protect our people, and put Canada first. Let us be clear. Our border needs to be taken back into our control, not to please the President, but to protect our own people. The fact that we have 20,000 to 500,000 people here illegally, according to the government, was a problem before these tariffs. The fact that we've lost 47,000 people to fentanyl overdoses should never have been allowed to happen. We must secure our border to stop the gun.
I'm sorry. Who allowed that to happen? Should never have been allowed. Nobody allowed it to happen. That's a stupid statement from a stupid man.
That are killing our people. 85% of gun crime is done with illegal guns smuggled over the border. We must secure our border.
Cute coming from a guy who wants to lax our current gun control laws in this country.
Yes. But again, right? Validating the premise that our border is out of... It's not. Right? We've had some issues in terms of the Roxham Road thing, but that happened because of what the United States did. And it's not so much... We weren't having troubles at the border. People were coming across the border. The problem is that we had trouble accommodating everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but we weren't having troubles or riots or crime or whatnot. People were just going and we were doing as Canada does. But turns out that, we had a relationship with the United States, and the United States was one type of country, and we never had to worry about the potential of 1 million migrants coming. So we never planned for that. Like this. Now we might know what that feels like soon enough. Right? But just the amount that we got from Roxham Road that time caused the Conservatives to lose their minds.
Yeah, one crossing in the entire country, and they lost their shit over it.
Imagine if the ICE deportations get really bad and people start fleeing.
Well,
imagine if the Conservatives were in power.
Will we see, and I mean this sincerely, will we see individuals in the United States try and claim refugee status at a border crossing because they are trans or non-binary?
It's going to happen.
I guarantee you it will. They want to claim refugee status, and they'll say, here's why. I am not recognized as a human being in my country.
And it's not like Canada doesn't already have a history of that. Remember, a few years ago, we raised money for Rainbow Railroad just for that exact purpose.
Yep.
I've met people that have come to Canada through Rainbow Railroad. There was a guy who sings in our choir every now and then who's come from Syria through the organization. I mean, right? Yeah. So it's again, the precedent is already created here. We do recognize asylum seekers on the basis of gender identity and sexual orientation. We have done it before. It's just whether or not we would ever consider the United States as being an unsafe country. And if we did, what would be the repercussions of that? Because that would be said one hell of an international signal.
I know. That's
first time we said yes.
I guarantee you there are people who are on the Hill working on this and trying to figure out a way to stick handle around it to make sure that we don't have a major incident. But I'm telling you, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's when. You will have Americans trying to seek refugee status in Canada because they, in the eyes of their government, they don't exist. We'll continue.
Again, to protect our own people and save the lives of our own children. And we must rebuild our military to protect our sovereignty, assert our strength. And
coming from the guy who works for the party that cut the military to the bone, reduced NATO spending to the lowest it's ever been, and closed Veterans Affairs offices across the country.
To below 1% of GDP.
Below 1% of GDP, our NATO contribution.
And then screwed the veterans.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's going to spend money on the military.
Keep our nation strong and free. Finally, we must lock arms with American economic interests that favor Canada, the workers and businesses that depend on trade with Canada should be marshaled to pressure the administration to back down. We must go to key states that will be up for grabs in the congressional elections 2 years from now and let their congressmen and senators know that they will be running on a bad economic record if refinery workers have lost jobs because Canadian oil can no longer make it to them, or if young families can't buy homes because lumber is even more expensive for home builders, or families that are already suffering from inflation are paying more for gas because our energy has become more expensive due to American tariffs. We must lock arms with all of those economic interests in the States.
What he is saying right now is the thing he promised to do after the Prime Minister called all the leaders of all the parties into a room for a super extraordinary meeting that never ever happens. And for 5 seconds, he was on Team Canada. And he hasn't done since. I would say, we must do it. You first. Beep.
I'm going to continue to call for all the things that are already happening.
Yes, and again, these are all the things we need to go and tell people in all the United States. These are all the things he said were dumb.
To build an American coalition against the tariffs and in favor of free trade between our two great countries. As always, we will stand strong with growing confidence. We are the second biggest landmass in the world, 41 million brilliant people, the third biggest supply of oil, fifth biggest supply of natural gas, biggest supply of uranium and potash. We have not 1, 2, or 3 coasts. We have, if you include the Great Lakes, we actually have 4 coasts that can take us to tide water. We have the biggest supply of fresh water anywhere on Earth, the 5th biggest supply of farmland. We should be the richest nation on Earth. These tariffs are a wake-up call, that it is time for us to meet our potential. It is time for us to be a country that can trade with itself, a country that builds homes quickly for its youth, a country that allows entrepreneurs to succeed quickly and profitably so that success is once again rewarded, a country that allows hard work to pay off, a country that harvests its own resources, that secures its borders to protect its people, that builds its military to protect its sovereignty, unites its people to protect our common history and common future. We will always put Canada first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Let's bring it home.
Okay, so
you will now take questions from the floor.
No.
Hi, Jared Yeager here from the Western Standard.
So notice he's changed his Canada first, Canada last, Canada always to this new variation, which actually grammatically makes a little more sense. But he got cut on that. All of that, he had trouble getting it out. Do you feel enthused? Do you want to join Team Canada that he's proposing? Do you feel warm inside? Compare the Prime Minister's speech, where he even had Andrew Coyne going, this is a very good speech. You had people putting tweets like, it's like even conservatives are praising the Prime Minister. That's how bad Trump is fucked up. Like, and then compared to this, does this make you want to go out and buy Canadian tomorrow?
No, not really.
He is so not the guy.
No kidding.
He is so not the guy. All right.
Let's get down to the Q&A session here.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from the floor. Hi, Jared Yeager here from the Western Standard. And if you could answer in French and English, please.
Oh, God.
So just hours ago, Trump said on Truth Social he believed Canada would, quote, cease to exist as a viable country, unquote, without the U.S., and hinted again that he won't end the tariffs until we become the 51st state. So I want to know, at what point is Canada's relationship with the U.S. beyond repair? And is there even a path forward for reasonable negotiation with someone like him at the other end of.
Well, he never said he won't stop until we become the 51st state. He just said he won't stop until his conditions or whatever, expectations, whatever, that are not stated and that are not clear and I guess are met. So the guy asking the question
is the Western Standard.
Yeah, I know that, but doesn't. Well, yeah, Western Standard gets to go first. I felt your eye roll, like this, and then
it's a propaganda
the question is based on a false premise, but the overall essence of the question still does remain.
Yes, correct.
At the table.
Our friendship with the Americans is not based on any one politician. It is based on our centuries-long history of trade, of friendship, of common defense, of fighting on the battlefield, arms locked together against common enemies. We will continue to build that friendship with the people of the United States. But let me be clear, we are an independent and we are a proud nation. And we will come through this an independent and a proud sovereign nation. We will not back down. We will not cease. We will continue to march forward as proud Canadians. Thank you.
En français.
All right.
Notre amitié.
Kind of an answer, but again, right? But we're talking about our friendship with. Nothing of that sounds friendly.
No.
And again, I just cannot buy. We are a proud, strong, and independent nation from the guy who, in this same press conference, just called us dumb. Now, yes, it was dumb to not make those changes to diversify our economy like this. But you don't say that in a speech in this context where you're speaking to Americans, especially when you say, I would like to speak to Americans. You don't talk us down in this type of speech. This guy is not with us.
No.
Oh my God. It's just unbelievable. All right, next.
Thank you. Next question.
Jennifer Maher de Radio-Canada, vous demandez à Justin Trudeau de rappeler le gouvernement que les travaux reprennent d'urgence à la Chambre des communes pour adopter un plan d'urgence. Est-ce que vous vous engagez à appuyer un plan d'urgence déposé par le gouvernement? Une réponse en français et en anglais, s'il vous plaît.
Okay. So basically, this question's asked, you've been calling for Parliament to be recalled over and over and over again. Does this mean that you are committing to actually pass a type of package like this? So the answer to this should be yes. Right? It should be very, very simple to say yes to this. You're asking for Parliament to be reopened because you need to deal with this plan. You've complained on that thing, if only Parliament had been open, even though you are the one that's making sure that nothing was passing. So hence is why the question, you stopped things from passing and said you want to take down the government at every turn. That someone's going to ask you, well, if you want Parliament reopened to pass something, are you actually going to pass it? Is a natural question, just like Jagmeet Singh. Say, well, you do understand if Parliament reopens, there's a speech from the throne, and that's a confidence matter. So if you want that thing to pass, you have to at least not vote non-confidence in the government at the first opportunity. Right. You understand how it works, right? So can you not at least say that? He can't. Like, these two should be, yes, that's the way the process works. We would have to not vote non-confidence at the first opportunity because, yes, we would have to vote for the speech of the throne to pass the package. But then after that, the next opportunity, yes, you could say that, but they can't even say yes to the first one.
Yeah. Okay.
Keep playing it.
In English?
Well, the question was whether I would support a Liberal plan in Parliament to respond to the tariffs. Well, we haven't seen any plan, so it's very hard for me to say whether I would support something I haven't seen in a Parliament that is shuttered. The question should be for the Liberals why they have shuttered Parliament in the middle of a crisis. They have their own power struggle going on right now, and the country is left largely leaderless and in chaos in the meantime. We need to recall Parliament.
None of that is true. None of that is
framing, but that's not true.
It's not true.
Because,
It's
but here
framing,
again,
yes.
because I haven't seen a deal, so I can't respect. The question is, whatever the words are used,
Mhm.
a liberal deal, or not asking you, will you accept a wholesale illiberal deal and just pass it? The question is, will you work in Parliament to pass a deal?
Yeah.
A deal. He does not say yes.
No, because he wants to have a
You have to.
non-confidence vote for what, the
You,
5th time?
you have to ask the liberals why. We know why. Because you vilified him so badly that the party decided that, yeah, he had to go. And now you, at this time that you're saying, oh my God, things are terrible and we need leadership, you actually want to send us into an election with one of our federal choices that has an interim leader.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. This is not serious. This is not serious. If you actually do want to pass a package, you have to agree to allow Parliament to operate to pass a package. And if you want to pass a package, it doesn't have to be the Liberal one, but you have to at least agree that you will pass something.
Mm.
And that you will try.
Will continue.
Crisis. They have their own power struggle going on right now, and the country is left largely leaderless and in chaos. In the meantime, we need to recall Parliament to pass a Canada First plan, and that would include tariffs that match the American tariffs, targets products we don't need, can get elsewhere, or make ourselves, use the money from those tariffs
He already
only
said this.
to help the workers and businesses that have
Back onto
suffered
the script.
and not to fill government coffers. We need a massive bring it home tax cut on work, investment, home building, energy, and making stuff in Canada. The purpose is to stimulate our economy, crush inflation, and protect and create jobs. We need to immediately repeal C-69, the anti-resource law the Liberals brought in, which is making us more reliant on the Americans and more and less capable of producing what we need here at home. We need to rebuild our military and secure our borders, to protect our sovereignty and our people, and we need a massive campaign among American businesses and workers in order to pressure the administration to reverse these unjustifiable tariffs. If that plan were put before Parliament, I would vote for it today.
So, beep, boop, boop. I repeat everything I just said, pull my string, and I will not say yes to voting wholesale for a Liberal plan, but if we open up Parliament and pass my plan, which is the recycled points of everything else, then yes, I will vote for that. Beep, boop, boop.
The cassette tape needs to be changed.
Introduce my plan, which is a rehash of all the things of your plan, and vote for it so I can claim that I won, and then I'll help Canada. But until you commit to doing that, voting for my plan with no input or what's not anything from you, then I will not commit to saying that I will allow Parliament to operate long enough to actually pass a plan. So he's not only saying pass a plan, pass my plan.
Yeah.
Like, so in other words, make me the government. If you
Only
open
I.
Parliament, yes, if you open Parliament long enough to act as if I'm the government and pass my plan, then yes. The fucking arrogance
Oh, yeah, yeah.
in this moment, because this is before Orange Thrush changed his mind, right? At this point, the tariffs are still on in time.
Mm-hmm.
So at the point in time that he's delivering this, the tariffs are on and he's running. The government's a failure. Blah, 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 blah. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to follow my plan. Here he is. Now that the tariffs are here I am showing up to lead. I did nothing to stop them, nothing to prevent them, nothing to make a case. But now that they're here, watch me lead by proposing all the things that everybody else has proposed before me. Let's pass my plan that I can't even commit holding this whole press conference and can't even commit to keeping Parliament open long enough to do. The guy makes no sense.
None.
He keeps on saying common sense. It is nonsense. Every damn word, even the things that sound right or that are right, he mixes them and puts them up with something else, or joins them with another thing, or says, because of all these things that are true, we need to do this thing that is completely WTF.
And regurgitates his, let's bring it home and axe the tax.
But he literally went through all 6 points in that answer all over again because he cannot go off script.
Can't think on his feet. It's as simple as that. If it is off script, he fails miserably.
And he has trouble
getting
getting
negotiate a damn thing when he doesn't have a script in front of him.
And he has trouble getting the facts out without choking on them.
Well, because he doesn't like facts. He likes alternative facts, which is what we also call, in reality, lies.
Or bullshit.
We shall
Keep
continue.
Sorry. Who's next? Sorry.
I'm being pushed out a lot for some reason. I guess CBC is allowed to ask questions now. You have talked about.
Sometimes we like to hear from local media.
Do you believe the government's promise of $155 billion in counter tariffs is enough? And what would you do differently to get the president to change course? And to clarify your last question, are you saying that you would step aside and not compete for the head of the country to allow us to get through this crisis? Or I'm unclear about your answer to the last question.
Well, I find it a strange question. CBC is asking me to step aside in the next election. It's a very strange request. No, we're not going to suspend democracy. The Canadian people run this country, and they will choose the next prime minister. Thank you very much. Next question.
Thank you. Next question.
Thomas Hill from Bloomberg. You mentioned the economic jeopardy for American refinery workers in your remarks. Is Canada's...
I got to go back and hear that crap again because it didn't make any bloody sense.
Sorry. Who's next? Sorry.
I'm being pushed out a lot for some reason. I guess CBC is allowed to ask questions now. You have talked about.
Sometimes we like to hear from local media.
Do you believe the government's promise of $155 billion in counter tariffs is enough? And what would you do differently to get the president to change course? And to clarify your last question, are you saying that you would step aside and not compete for the head of the country to allow us to get through this crisis? Or I'm unclear about your answer to the last question.
Well, I find it a strange question. CBC is asking me to step aside
in
the next election.
No.
It's a very strange...
That was not the fucking question.
And you notice it was a two-part question. What would you have done differently? That he's going to skip that completely because he's got nothing for that. I guess. And notice the journalist, for those who didn't hear it clearly, apparently the journalist from CBC was being pushed out of the line to ask questions.
Yes.
I guess it says, are we not allowed to ask questions anymore? It says, sometimes we like to hear from local media. Yeah, but you want to abolish the CBC. So I think it's pretty clear that you do not want to hear from the CBC at all ever again. Boo-boo kitty. So that line does not work. And then it's like, you asked me to step aside. No. Your previous answer was unclear. It was. Are you saying that you would be willing to step aside as running for prime minister or another? Right?
Yeah. He has a vivid imagination.
I guess, and he twisted that to the CBC. Has asked me to not run. No, she's asking if you are saying that you would not, because that your previous answer just made so much not sense. And this is not the first time he does that in this Q&A. It won't be the last time, I should say. Keep going.
There's about 3 minutes left.
Request. No, we're not going to suspend democracy. The Canadian people run this country, and they will choose the next prime minister. Thank you very much. Next question.
Thank you. Next question.
Thomas Hill from Bloomberg. You mentioned the economic jeopardy for American refinery workers in your remarks. Is Canada's negotiating position today still weakened without the prospect of restrictions or export taxes on its biggest export by far, energy and crude oil?
Well, I think the reason that Justin Trudeau has refused to answer that question, and the reason why numerous Quebec leaders have surprisingly, to some,
the question was asked to you,
have come out against it, is
They didn't ask why is the prime minister refused to answer the question, and he hasn't, and because he's willing to put oil on the table, and he asked you, do you support putting oil on the table? And once again, you cannot give a full-throated yes. You pivot. You're talking about Justin Trudeau. It's not about Justin Trudeau. The question is about you.
Deflect, deny, depose, depraved.
He's got nothing. Defame, defile, deride, dehumanize, demonize, all the D words.
Yeah. Just an absolute trash monkey.
Because it's not clear how Western oil would actually make it to Quebec, given that the oil we transport from Western Canada to Quebec goes through the United States, goes down into the States through lines 5 and 9 and back up to Quebec. Of course, Eastern Canada has to import a lot of Eastern American oil because we don't have a transnational pipeline. Furthermore,
not true.
we don't export any of our natural gas.
That is not true. There is a transnational pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
It was built in the 50s. It goes through the city of Ottawa. This man can't even check. Oh my God. He can't even check facts.
To any country other than the United States because the government here has blocked LNG export plants. So the question then becomes, where else would we export our oil and gas? And I think we're all starting to realize just how absolutely reckless it was for Mr. Carney, Ms. Freeland, Mr. Trudeau to block pipelines and other resource projects that would have made us less reliant on the United States.
Mr. Carney had nothing to do with the
all
decision.
of these suggestions of blocking Canadian energy exports have to be followed up with a question. Where else would you sell our resources? Yeah, right, but we have nowhere else to sell it. So that is the question that these are the questions that have to be answered. So far, the Prime Minister has said that he does not want to divide the country by attacking one industry in one region against the other, and I actually commend him for those remarks, and I agree with him on that.
This will be the final question.
Write it down.
Okay.
Zoltan True North. Question is,
True North.
do you believe that tit-for-tat tariffs with the United States could lead to a trade war that Canada cannot win?
I believe we're already in a trade war, and I believe no one will win. I think both countries will lose. And that's my message to our American friends. Why? Why would you want both of our countries to lose a trade war when we have the most successful trading, security, and geographical relationship that any two countries have ever had in the history of the world? Why would you want us to lose, both of us? Because that's what's going to happen. This will make America poorer, weaker, and less safe. Will Canada lose? Of course. We're both going to lose. So let's stop losing on both sides of the border. Let's hammer out our differences and actually trade more. That would be a winning solution to all of this, and that is the message that I will bring as we put Canada first. Thank you very much.
Okay. And again, just the stupidity. The stupidity of that. I'm realizing as it ends, because that's not the one he did yesterday that I was mentioning where he said the thing that was unbelievable. That was the one with the day that he was announcing his 6-point plan.
Mm-hmm.
The last little bit on its own was okay. But that thing was just terrible. It was just terrible. So sorry, I really thought I kept on waiting for the moment to come and it wasn't coming, and then I realized, oh shit, that's the other one. Because the guy has been in hiding for so long. And then he came out and did 2 availabilities in a short amount of time. So I'm guessing that might be the other pivot from him. But in yesterday's press conference, and hopefully I will be able to find it. Oh yeah, there it is with you. There you go. I'll send you this one, Mr. Beersley. Hopefully I'll be able to get a timestamp for you on it as well. In the one he did yesterday, he came out again, right? And again was validating Trump's claims about the border. And at this time still as well, they were was basically telling us that we're a shithole country.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere in it, as I mentioned, he made a claim that we should be doing something. Now, this is related because I believe this came after, I might not be 100% correct on this, but I think this came after it was announced yesterday that that Mexico had gotten the reprieve for about 1 month, because that had happened earlier in the day. So Trump was on the phone with the president of Mexico, and apparently the president of Mexico and him had a very, very constructive and a good talk, according to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that everything got delayed by 1 month because the president of Mexico had agreed to put 10,000 National Guard soldiers on the U.S. border. Turns out they've had 15,000 there for quite a while. And they would work on a couple of extra things. And then when that came out, it was sort of like, well, hey, is this going to be a divide and conquer strategy from the United States in terms of, okay, because we were looking at it Canada-wise, 25% on everything, but only 10% on oil. And Danielle Smith was using that as crowing as she had made some type of achievement. But all of us are looking from the outside. Well, of course, you buy 60% of your oil from us. And if the price of oil and everything that comes out of there goes up an extra 25%, just like that, the people are going to hate you in the United States. So it's only 10% for that because, well, people notice the price at the pump,
Mm-hmm.
particularly, right? So what he's doing to us is showing us his soft underbelly. It's like, I'm going to tax everything 25% except oil because we really, really need that. Because it turns out that increases the odds that Canada's response is, okay, well, motherfucker, here's some tariffs. The extra 15% on oil to make it 25 on the export duties, and then let's do the other stuff. You said 25% on everything. Let's make it 25% on everything. That could have been a response. Danielle Smith was living in fear of that response. She did not want that to happen. So she thought she had gotten win. And then Mexico gets all the tariffs removed for 30 days. So they could think, oh, divide and conquer again, right? North America wise. And those press stories started this. If Sheinbaum is able to get them all reprieved for a month and Justin Trudeau isn't, well, I'm going to fucking...
So I offered him what we've already been doing, and he dropped the tariffs. That's Justin Trudeau, and Sheinbaum says, oh my God, same.
Apparently, Donald Trump just found out yesterday that about the $1.3 billion. I don't know if his staff has not been telling him or something. We agreed to do another thing. We named a fentanyl czar. All right, fine. We agreed to like some cross-border action to help fight fentanyl. Okay, yeah, we're up on that too. Jeez. Yeah, that's the Journal de Montréal cover here. It's stupid with in big letters with a small e in parentheses at the end to make stupide in French.
And it's a picture of Donald Trump, look like he wants to holster something. And of course, today's cover of Le Journal de Montréal, the largest newspaper in Quebec.
Ooh, okay. Do you have? Did you get the? It's embedded in the Twitter link I sent you, but the other YouTube clip.
Yeah, I have it here. It said it starts at 9:54.
Yeah. Fine. So this is him. So that's the first one. He comes out and says, "There's my plan. You got to do this. You got to do that. Like this. Here I am now. Like this. I'm the future Prime Minister of Canada because we need to do all this stuff." Then he comes out yesterday, and then adds this.
Borders. They are the protective arms wrapped around our people and our land to stop foreign threats and protect against enemies. They mark our place and stake out our ground as a people and country. But in 9 years, the NDP Liberals have lost control of our borders, letting drugs, guns, and terrorists threaten our people. Part is incompetence, but part is the radical Liberal agenda, a borderless, globalist, post-national agenda.
Okay, let's stop right there.
Globalist?
Borderless?
That's a dog whistle.
Borderless?
Mm-hmm. Borderless.
He's so anxious to get globalist out.
Yeah.
Okay, number one. Number two, again, looks awful.
Mm-hmm.
Looks terrible.
And remember, though, globalist is a dog whistle for a particular religious group.
Yes. Mr. I Stand With Israel just issued an anti-Semitic slur.
I don't know why he didn't just come right out and say George Soros. But that's what it is. It's a dog whistle.
It's a total dog whistle. So, and validating the claim, right? Again, because apparently, like you mentioned the last time, we let the drugs and the crime and the guns come. Mm-hmm. We just let.
So this is the man who wants to scan every shipping container in a port.
Oh, he's going to talk about that.
Oh, I know. Which I've spoken to people who work for CBSA and said, that's simply not possible. It's not possible. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the materials. And it would require 100,000 individuals in each port to do it. Because you know how many containers go through that port on a daily basis?
Right. This is a plan that he came out with about a year or something ago that was panned, destroyed, mocked, laughed, and he's recycling it again because he thinks we forgot when he talks about those things. Keep going.
National is the word that Justin Trudeau used. All of this done with the advice and support of his top economic advisor, Mark Carney, who calls himself a European. Mm-hmm. And here are the facts.
That's a lie, too.
Fact, after 9 years of Liberals, gun-related crime is up 116%, with the Toronto Police Association saying that 85% of gun offenses use illegal firearms from the United States. Fact, the Liberal government only inspects 1% of shipping containers coming into our country, allowing drugs and guns to sneak through the other 99%. Fact, the Liberals let multiple ISIS terrorists enter into Canada, including a man who was allegedly filmed cutting up a human body on a crucifix in the Middle East. The same man is now charged for planning a terrorist attack in Canada. Fact, the Liberal government admits it has lost count of the number of people who are here illegally. But they say in one of their own reports that it's somewhere between 20,000 and 500,000. But they say it could be more. How reassuring. And then there are the drug deaths.
I don't, that last statistic, I have to go and find that report and see what it is it actually says, because I think he's playing fast and loose with some data there. Yes. But notice all the misery porn. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about people being that ISIS thing in such graphic and horrific detail. Right? 1% of the shipping containers stated as if 99% of all the guns come through all the other shipping containers and not through other ways. Lie. guns, 75% coming across the border, that he has not stated in any of his allegedly stand up for Canada rhetoric that we should maybe be asking the United States to do something about, lest we impose some tariffs. However, this is all our failure. Right?
Is 1% of things that get checked. Yeah, because it is physically impossible to check everything.
Yep.
You could do it. Let me back that up. You could check every container.
Yes.
You could. We need to hire several thousand, about 100,000 inspectors, which will cost us billions of dollars.
Yep.
And each container that gets checked, you do realize that slows down the shipping process.
Yeah.
When you say you're pro-business, as Pierre Poilievre likes to say, we're conservatives, we believe in big business, we're beholden to big business. He never actually said those words, but he is beholden to big business, as is every politician. They all are.
Yep.
I don't care who's in power. You're all beholden to big business. But the thing is, if he wants to inspect every single container, you will bring the economy to a screeching halt.
He's talking about it like it's airport luggage. You just put it on a conveyor belt, it goes through a scanner once, and then you're fine.
No, it's not. No.
That's not how you inspect a container. We did the math on the show when he proposed it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
How much time it takes per containers, how many containers. It's just, the resourcing would be ridiculous. Again, and the other thing that we said, there would certainly be a government contract for all those scanners. There would be a lot of them. And you would truly trust this government to issue that contract? Okay. Yeah. Keep going.
How reassuring. And then there are the drug deaths. 49,000 Canadians have lost their lives to opioid overdoses in the last 9 years. More than died fighting for Canada in the Second World War. Can you imagine that? That was a war, and it killed fewer people than have died in Canada to opioids under this Liberal government. Opioid deaths are up over 200%. The radical drug liberalization.
Okay, now he's going way off on a tangent here, and it's bullshit, and I'll tell you why.
Yep.
Drugs and drug trafficking are controlled at the municipal level in the cities, and then overseen by the provinces, and finally, when it comes to the border, the federal government. But he wants to lay everything at the foot of blame at the Prime Minister. This man is a fucking child.
Yep. And
I'm taking my ball and going home. Look, I have said this time and time and time again on this program, and I'm going to say it one more time. I would like to see a strong, healthy, actually progressive conservative party in this country again. It no longer exists. It's been gone for over 20 years. This guy's a reformer in sheep's clothing. This man will do nothing to improve your life unless you're a billionaire, in which case you'll get massive tax cuts. This is the man who proposed that during COVID, when the whole frickin' world shut down, that he give us tax cuts. What is a tax cut going to do for somebody who has no income? Because you couldn't go to work. He was against CERB. Oh, what a child.
Whereby the NDP Liberals legalized the use of fentanyl in Canada.
Where are we going with this one now? Let's just start it over so we have a full thought on it.
Percent. The radical drug liberalization, whereby the NDP Liberals legalized the use of fentanyl in Canada, has been yet another deadly experiment. Most of the ingredients.
Okay, fentanyl is already legally used in this country to treat cancer patients.
Yes.
So,
yes.
That he's stating a fact, but he's twisting it to make it look like it's something else.
And he's making
if you're using it illegally, it's illegal. But it is a controlled Class A1 narcotic. You can get it in a hospital if you need it. Using it as a recreational drug on the streets? Nobody's legalized that. But it is a controlled Class 1 narcotic. You can get it in a hospital. And it's often administered to cancer patients for pain relief.
And I'm looking here. There was at least, according to Health Canada, between January 2012 and December 2022, fentanyl has been identified in 77,141 samples submitted to the Drug Analysis Service by Canadian law enforcement agencies. So if fentanyl was already being detected in 2012, then how could this government have approved it?
Who was in power back then? Oh, that's right. Stephen Harper.
Now, I'm not saying that fentanyl was approved in 2012, but in 2012, when doing drug overdose analysis, fentanyl started showing up. At least when they started doing these, because they started collecting data, at least in January. If they started in January 2012 collecting data, or if they started before. But this data here says that at least as early as January 2012, there was fentanyl discovered. So it was already in the drug supply then.
Yes.
So, I mean, nobody legalized fentanyl for consumption on the streets, period. And the legal use of fentanyl as a controlled substance, because it was already in our streets, happened somewhere before 2012. He just lies. He just lies. And again, when he says 200%, 200% over what? Over what time? What time period? Is that a year over year, or is that, there were 1,000 something total deaths when Justin Trudeau took office, and now there's this much, and it's 900% more than season. Well, that's a totally different number.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
If you're comparing the total number now and just the increase, that's one. But you got to say that, because you say it's a 200% increase. Like if you're sitting at home, like since last year, he gives no time period, no reference, no nothing, just a number.
Yeah.
Normally, when you give that number, it's like, when we talk about inflation is up 2.1% year over year. Same time last year, or over the last 10 years, or the last decade, or no time period. The numbers are not anchored in anything.
No, but it helps him paint the picture he wants you to see.
Yep.
It's come from China and Mexico. And yet,
I think this is the first time he's said China in the last 7 years.
Oh, sorry, I'm just looking back here. It goes, fentanyl was first identified in Canada in 1989 in exhibits submitted by law enforcement agencies.
But it's
1989.
Yeah.
Oh, this motherfucker
cannot stop them at the border. Fact. Canadian Security Services identified 350 organized crime rings operating within our border. 63 of these groups have international connections to China, Mexico, and other nations.
And you know what the cause of all this is? You know why people use illicit narcotics like that? Usually it's because they're impoverished and can't afford to keep a roof over their head or food on their table. And why do people smuggle these drugs? Because they can make enough money to survive. The problem with all of this is poverty.
These are crimes of desperation.
Yes.
And death of despair.
You're not going to risk spending the rest of your life in prison if you're not desperate. And desperation comes out of poverty. A UBI would fix so many problems in this country. And we could get people into housing. We could get people into treatment they need for drug addiction or alcohol addiction. We could get people the treatment they need for mental health if we had a UBI. The first thing is get housing and then get an income. And it takes care of a lot of problems. Just those two things. It would also save us millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in policing, court, and hospital costs. But hey, he needs somebody to punch down on.
Fact. In British Columbia, police recently discovered a super lab containing enough fentanyl and materials to kill 95 million people. In the year leading up to September 2024, U.S. border agents seized 11,600 pounds of drugs coming from Canada. Fentanyl seizures tripled between 2023 and 2024.
So the system's working.
Our neighbors have noticed. President Trump has raised concerns, and he has wrongly used this risk as a rationale for tariffs. These tariffs are unjustified and they are wrong. The United States needs to do more on its border, and so do we. But frankly, it should not take a foreign leader to get our government to reverse its deadly policies that are killing our people. It is not for President Trump or any other foreign leader that I want to stop fentanyl in my country. It's so that not one more mother has to bury her face in her hands in the terrible agony of learning her son died in a back alley somewhere from this poison.
Okay.
Again, more misery porn.
That's rich coming from this guy. So things like safe injection sites and safe supply help to eliminate the back alley deaths. But he wants to close all these down because he calls them drug dens.
Right.
He has not a fucking solution. All he wants to do is paint a miserable picture, blame the current government so he can get elected. Because he will not fix a fucking thing. He will exacerbate the problem. You close safe injection sites, more people will die. You end safe supply, more people will die. This is rich coming from this guy.
And that is why I will take back control of Canada's borders. My common sense Canada First plan should immediately be adopted by Parliament. We must recall Parliament now and put Liberal Party power struggles aside so that we can adopt this plan to save our...
What power struggle is there? They're electing a new leader.
There's no power struggle.
That's not a power struggle.
And again, it's
electing a new leader. This happens. And didn't it happen 2 years ago with this clown?
Yeah. It's like we must take back control of our border. We have control over borders. That's why only 1% of the fentanyl that's going into fewer than 1% is coming from our border, because we do a damn good job. So all of this here is like, gee, if Canada had only listened to the United States and helped them secure the border, it's like, how do you think we got to less than 1% of migrants and fewer than 1% of all fentanyl crossing the border? How do you think that happened? There are probably more migrants and more fentanyl that comes to the border from the United States into Canada than the other way around. How do you think we got to that point? Fuck. Seriously.
Our people and secure our borders. The plan: immediately deploy military troops, helicopters, and surveillance to the border to spot and intercept risks.
You would need the Emergencies Act to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can't deploy Canadians to patrol the Canadian military to patrol the border without the Emergencies Act. Yeah. The RCMP and CBSA already do that.
Yeah, and here's the other thing that you were talking about, the drugs, when he says that 49,000 opioid deaths since 2016 in Canada. In 2023 alone, 8,049 people in Canada died from apparent drug poisoning. I was looking for harm reduction numbers, how many lives were saved, because he's taking a 9-year total, and I was figuring, if we can get a 9-year total of harm reduction and see how many people more were saved than people who died. Somebody should be. I'm trying to look for that numbers while he's talking, and to be able to bring it to you. And I thought I had found it there, but I had not.
Can you tell me something? Why is it if I call out a politician who is of the conservative ilk, I immediately get painted as a liberal? I'm not. I'm not a liberal. I never have been. I belong to no political party, and I didn't vote for Justin Trudeau.
Okay. Here's the idea. This is from 2019, because he's talking about 2019, right? 2016. So in 2019, CBC, British Columbia, overdose crisis death toll would be more than double without harm reduction, study says. That's in 2019. He says he's going to prevent deaths. Again, let me reread that article title. Overdose crisis death toll would be more than double without harm reduction. More than double. He's complaining about the 49,000, let's say 50,000 to round it up. And he has policies that will kill 100,000.
Yes.
At least based on 2019 data from British Columbia, which is ground zero for harm reduction studies in North America. Let's keep going.
Recent remarks by the Canadian Forces Chief of the Defence Staff, General Jenny Kerrigan, offered earlier this month, we can deploy military assets into the sky, whether helicopters or other surveillance tools, and we should do so. In fact, we should have done so long ago. 2, expand the powers of CBSA border agents to patrol everywhere along the border, not just at official border crossings. 3, hire 2,000, at least 2,000 new CBSA agents to intercept illegal crossers, drugs, guns, and other dangerous law breaking. 4.
Isn't this the smaller government guy?
But keep going. It gets a little more concerning.
High-powered scanners at all major land crossings and shipping ports. These scanners can see through the walls of containers and vehicles to spot drugs, guns, and stolen cars. 5.
You know how powerful that is?
Build border surveillance towers that we can deploy on and use to scan the landscape and detect incursions. Also, deploy truck-mounted drone systems that can spot incursions from the sky. 6, track departures. We should keep track of who's leaving so that we know which deportees are still in our country. As I said at the outset, the government amazingly doesn't know how many people are here illegally. How are we supposed to protect our borders when there could be over 500,000 people inside those borders illegally, according to the government's own admissions? We will pay for the Canada First border plan by scrapping the Liberal gun buyback and cutting bureaucracy. The gun buyback, actually I should call it the gun grab, has been completely ineffective. They've spent $60 million and they admit it has not recovered a single gun. Meanwhile, even if they did get guns from this plan, according to the supporters of gun control, the main lobby group supporting gun control, the people who give their guns in would just take the payment they receive to buy other guns that are very similar in nature. Finally, the gun buyback targets licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested.
Now he's losing focus.
And he went on earlier about, in another speech, about tighten up the border because guns are coming in from the United States.
Yeah.
But now he wants a buyback.
He wants to cancel the gun buyback program. Now, did you hear what he said before, though? Did you hear what he said before?
No, I wasn't paying attention because his voice grates on my nerves after a while.
He called to deploy the military on the border.
Yes, and put up guard towers and sounds like a Berlin Wall, don't you think? Canada
has had an undefended border that he bragged about in the previous, when he said why he made this thing. We've had an undefended border since the War of 1812.
Now he wants guard towers.
He wants us to change absolutely everything we are. Before we got the reprieve, and potentially after, word got out that Mexico got their reprieve because they agreed to put 10,000 troops on the border. And it seems that Pierre Poilievre probably also was not aware that they had been there all along, like Trump. He rushes to a mic and says, we need to militarize our border.
Mm-hmm.
breaking a 213-year tradition. This is core to our essence and identity. The guy who freaked out because Terry Fox, an image of Terry Fox was removed from the passport, is saying, yeah, you know that world's longest undefended border thing because you guys are friends? Yeah, let's end that. That's his day one response.
I don't think enough people recognize how dangerous this man is.
Do you know what that would have done?
Mm-hmm.
Had we gone out and actually announced a plan to militarize our border? What do you think the response from the United States would have been had we decided to do that?
Not
I mean,
good.
CBC's headline is actually, with tariff threat paused for now, Poilievre renews calls for Parliament to resume. Conservative leader called for troops on the border before 30-day reprieve announced. This guy's in full freaking panic mode.
Mm-hmm.
My jaw dropped.
Well, he's talking about building a Berlin Wall, effectively saying let's militarize our border after saying it's the longest undefended border, and now you want to, yeah.
Jeez. During that same news conference, the opposition leader made his pitch to station Canadian soldiers near the border immediately to spot and intercept risks. Quote, send Canadian forces, troops, helicopters, and surveillance to the border now.
Well, he wants to live in a militarized zone. He's just trying to appease Trump.
But you don't send the military.
Military has larger things to worry about.
It's like, okay, you maybe equip CBSA, whatnot, but you do not send the freaking military.
Well, and you know what happens when the RCMP catch somebody illegally crossing the border? They just bring them to the nearest CBSA outlet, office location and dump them. And then it's up to the CBSA to process them. The CBSA is not like the border patrol in the U.S. in the sense that the CBSA, yes, they can hold you. Yes, they can question you. Yes, they can tear your car apart. But they don't have unlimited powers like the U.S. does. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. Indeed. So I'm glad that the CBC actually picked up on that and put it there because I'm not sure it was a top of mind story here. The leader of the opposition, after finding out that Mexico got a reprieve by promising 10,000 National Guard officers on their border and a couple of other things, of course, Mexico, who's in a worse economic position than we are and has less ability to resist, so therefore probably more inclined to make a deal to give Trump a few things that he wants as well. But after hearing, hey, that's what got, so let's do an even bigger show. Let's actually have our actual military. That was his solution. So again, it was a me too, but let's go bolder and bigger and let's make it even flashier because Trump will love that.
Yeah, meanwhile, he's saying he wants to do all of these things, but he'll cut spending on the military
and balance the budget.
Yeah.
Keep going.
A man who has zero economic training. All right.
Zero.
Arrested hunters, off-duty police officers, and other highly trained professionals who are of no risk.
We can stop
obviously
on this now. And just go to the Q&A, which is a couple of minutes later, because from this point on, he just completely and totally loses focus. He's into the gun thing and the gun buyback, and we need to, because that gun thing is terrible, and we're, attacking hunters and all that. We're talking about tariffs, dude, and securing the border. You kind of lost your thing, and then he's also And then he continues, he ends with like a whole bunch of his slogans. And all of this is delivered breathlessly, right? We got the guns and but he literally came out to say we need to militarize our border.
Yeah.
This is unimpressive.
Let's keep going.
Now we get to the Q&A.
That Mexico got a 1-month pause before Canada.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from the floor.
Hi, Jared Yeager here from the Western Standard. Just English
Again?
is fine. What message does it send that Mexico got a 1-month
English
pause
is
before
fine.
Canada? And do you think Trudeau's call with Trump today will yield a similar result?
Unfortunately, I wasn't on the call, so I can't tell you anything about how it went.
Good thing.
But what I can say is that we need a Canada First agenda that will protect us against these unfair and unjustifiable tariffs. And that Canada First plan must include retaliatory tariffs to deter the attacks on our economy. It must include a strong border to protect our people against drugs, guns, and terrorists. It must include a bring-it-home tax cut and red tape cut so that we can reward hard work, bring home billions of dollars of investment, develop our own resources, and it must include free trade among our own provinces. That is how we become stronger, more self-reliant, and less hopelessly dependent on foreign powers and foreign governments.
I did not hear a yes on that.
Hi, Michelle Gassoub, CBC, and if we could get an answer in French as well, please.
You're not going to ask me to step aside and let the Liberals stay in power through to eternity, as your CBC colleague said yesterday.
No, she did not.
You
lying
called on
piece
the
of
Prime
shit.
Minister to bring back Parliament.
That was not what was stated. This guy can't tell the truth about anything.
Ask me to step aside and
it's like Pavlovian, right? As soon as he hears CBC, that's the happiest he's looked in the last 2 press conferences.
Yeah. Delighted at it.
Delighted
and let the
sticking it to
Liberals
the
stay
one
in
source of
power through
information.
to eternity, as your CBC colleague said yesterday.
You've called on the Prime Minister to bring
No.
back Parliament and pass your plan to counter Donald Trump's tariffs. Does that mean you're willing to work with other parties to come up with an agreed-upon plan before voting non-confidence and bringing down the government?
Okay, stop
Well, of
there.
course, we can't do any of those things because
Now notice she reformulated the question, because when it was asked the day before, it was like agree to a Liberal plan. Now it's working with other parties to formulate a plan.
Yes.
This is the proper question with nothing he can get around, right? It's a clear, direct question. What do we get?
Voting on confidence and bringing down the government.
Well, of course, we can't do any of those things because Justin Trudeau and the Liberals have shut Parliament. Parliament is closed. You should direct your question to the Liberals. Why, in the middle of this crisis, have the Liberal Party powers put themselves ahead of Canadians? They're in the middle of a Liberal Party power struggle. Again, concerned about themselves, their own self-interest, rather than immediately recalling Parliament so that we can pass a Canada First plan like the one I've just laid out.
Okay. No, okay, we
Merci
can skip over the French. So, asked if he would work with other parties to pass the package and not take down the government right away. Same answer as Jagmeet. He still cannot say yes.
Yeah.
Still pretending that Parliament was functioning normally before prorogation. Was not. And literally tells the journalist, hey, they should ask the Liberals, as if the Liberals would know better than he does, what it is he is willing to do or not. Ask the Liberals why they shut down. We know why the Liberals shut down Parliament. We asked you, would you be willing to let Parliament operate long enough to have a plan? Well, you'd have to ask the Liberals. The Liberals don't know what your intentions are. That's a question for you. He can't say yes. He won't say yes. He is not with us.
No, he's not.
I don't know how many times he needs to be asked the question point blank. Do you put oil on the table? Will you let Parliament operate? And he cannot just say yes. We need to reopen Parliament. Will you allow it to function? Stutter, stutter, blah, blah, blah. If you can't say yes, you're not with us. You don't care about the plan. You sit there like this. We need plan to protect like this. Well, you will allow Parliament to operate long enough to pass a plan. That's a no. If you can't say yes, you're saying no. And the only plan he's interested in passing is his own. You're not the government. He's doing the same thing to us as he did to Ukraine with the free trade thing.
Mm-hmm.
No free trade for you unless you adopt my carbon tax proposal. That's like, no Canadian has the peace of mind and the security to know that these supports will be there for them should the worst hit. Now that we got a 30-day reprieve. In a month from now, nobody gets that peace of mind because both he and Jagmeet Singh will simply not say yes. While we do not approve of this government, this is a moment that requires us to all band together. We will work together to put a package and try to pass it as quickly as possible in order to give Canadians peace of mind. That answer is available, and then we will get back to regular warfare.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't do it because they don't care about you. Keep going.
Permettre le libre-échange entre les... donner le feu et renforcer menace.
Question. Hi, Thomas Seal from Bloomberg. Yesterday, Elizabeth May said that on the federal leaders' call, Prime Minister said it had become increasingly clear that there was no evidence or further actions on border security that would make any difference. Trump would only double down. Today, Trump is talking about market access for US banks. So what's your understanding of Trump's ultimate goal here, and should concessions like more market access for US companies be on the table?
You'd have to ask President Trump what his goals are. He's
We're asking you.
said he wants to put America first. Well, I will put Canada first.
Oh, yes.
We need a Canada first plan that's good for this country.
First one to bow down and kiss the ring if I'm Prime Minister.
We need to protect our borders, not to please any other foreign leader. I've been calling to reinforce our border for about 8 years now.
You cut CBSA spending. And fired 2,000 people, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I know.
It's just I can't make this shit up.
I know. This is like he talks about the internal trade stuff as if the federal government has any say or power as to whether provinces reduce or eliminate interprovincial trade barriers, when all it can do really is cheer from the sidelines and encourage it, maybe perhaps promise an extraordinary loss backstop. If you try this and it really doesn't work, we'll be there. Then he's asked about Elizabeth May, right? Because his position is in direct contradiction with hers.
Yes.
Right? We get back a report from Elizabeth May, who's been right a lot lately, by the way, stating that there's nothing that we could have done on the border that would have satisfied IQ 47. And he's still trying to solve the old problem.
Yeah.
If we just militarized our border, that moment is past, honey. He's on to other things. And the things that he's on to is I think we're finally getting an opening into what it is that Donald Trump really wanted from Canada all along, was access to our freaking banking sector.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that Mark Carney went on the Daily Show and said we didn't do some prime mortgage because we don't do things we don't understand. Donald Trump wants us to do things with our banks that we can't understand, and he wants access to it. One of the safest banking systems of the world, if not.
Well,
and he is asked, and Pierre is asked point blank, do you agree that we should increase market access to the United States to our banking system? Well, you have to ask Trump where it is. He hasn't.
But they already have access. Capital One has branches across the country.
Yeah, but they want more. Like
if they want it all,
like dairy and stuff, right? Too. But I'm just sitting there. I'm thinking, again, you are asked a direct, point blank question. Do you agree that future and greater access to our banking system should be on the table in a trade negotiation with the United States? And he cannot say no. or in a very tiny, limited capacity, like when we did a concession on dairy to allow some stuff like powdered milk products and stuff like that, but nothing that we would actually consume. Allow a little extra opening there. But other than that, it's like, why? And why can you not say no?
Well, and let's not forget that just the other day,
You hired Mark Carney to get us out of the 2008 crash because we did not do the things that they did. Like, and you still can't say no? You were the government that came into power after an election, said all we needed to do was cut the per vote subsidy and make a couple of tax cuts and everything would be fine. And then you had to come back a couple months later and say, oh, wait, the deficit is actually going to be $36 billion. Oh, did we say 30? Actually, it was 51. Sorry. You're the government that had to go through that because of the shit that happened with the U.S. banking system. And you cannot say no. Oh, my God.
I told you.
You have to ask Trump.
He'll hand it all over to Trump just so he can get a seat in the cabinet somewhere.
Oh my
a man
God.
who's never held a job in his life other than paperboy and politician tells us he's for, the working man.
I'm gonna go out on a big limb here, but I bet you if you ask the same question to Mark Carney whether or not we should allow U.S. he would be able to say something. Well, gee, you need to ask Trump what he's got in mind.
He'd have a direct, definitive answer for you, guaranteed. Shall we?
This guy.
I gotta wrap this up soon because it's just getting too much for me.
I know. This guy
is the first to come out and demand a closure of Roxham Road, where tens of thousands of people entered illegally. I was then the one who forced Justin Trudeau through an ultimatum to finally close Roxham Road. I called for scanners to be put in at all of our ports well over a year ago in order to intercept drugs, guns, and other contraband. I've been saying that we need to have strong...
And again, I have spoken to people in CBSA who said his plan is not feasible.
It's just dumb.
It's not feasible. He's just telling people what they want to hear, but it is not a realistic, feasible plan because we don't have the manpower. And if we hire the manpower, watch the budget really go up and watch trade slow to a screeching halt.
Right. And it's like, and he didn't say it in this one, but he said, and I called for a long time to put the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps on the terrorist list. Yeah. After the Liberals asked you to do it back in 2012, right?
Yeah, it's been out for a long time. And then who eventually ended up doing that and putting them on that? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Liberals.
Current government of Canada.
Erwin Koppler.
For years. And I haven't been doing that to please anyone in the White House. I've been doing it to save the lives of our people. That is what it means to put Canada first.
The guy who's going to put an end to safe supply and safe consumption sites is trying to save lives.
So remember, the question was, do you support increased open access? And that's how I will put Canada first. By not saying full-throated no to increased market access to our banks. And not being able to say yes to keeping part of it open long enough to help you, a Canadian who might lose your job because of tariffs, if they come down at some point. Just let him finish because he's nearly done.
The final question.
Aaron McCarthy, Global News. Much of what you've said is going to require resources. How much would a Conservative government spend on defence priorities in the first year?
Well, I've already said that we're going to use the dollar-for-dollar principle, which is to cut waste in order to fund stronger borders. And I gave very tangible examples. We will save $600 million by getting rid of the ridiculous gun grab that has not taken a single firearm off the street and goes after licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested hunters and sport shooters. And we will use that money for frontline borders. Second, we will reduce the size of the federal back office bureaucracy. There are roughly 17,000 bureaucrats that voluntarily retire every single year. I'm not going to replace them all. And through that powerful mathematics of attrition, we will reduce the morbidly obese back office bureaucracy that has grown by 50% in a decade. And we'll put that money into frontline, boots on the ground, drones, helicopters, and other surveillance in the sky. Dollar for dollar. Whenever I bring in new spending.
So he wants to create a surveillance state where Big Brother is always watching you.
And replace people with machines.
Yes.
Yes, but no number as to how much he's willing to spend to shore up our defense.
Oh, no, we'll figure that out later.
In the first year, in the first year, he could be prime minister as early as a couple of months if he gets his early election, and he still has no idea how much. He still will not tell Canadians how much he would like to spend on defense in the first year to do all the things that he's saying that we must do. He hasn't thought of it that far yet.
And if I was the reporter, I'd say, with all due respect, that's not an answer to the question. The question is, how much money are you willing to spend? And you did not answer it. I did answer it. I gave you the answer. It's just not the one you want to hear, which is that's his go-to. It's like, no, you didn't answer the question.
You answered a question.
But you didn't answer the one I asked you.
It will be matched by $1 of savings. That's how single moms, seniors, and small businesses run their finances. It's how I will run the government.
You haven't said anything about annexation.
Thank you very much.
You haven't said anything.
I actually have.
Not today.
Sorry, false information. Is this the CBC managed to get in here again?
I'm CP.
All right.
You haven't said anything about annexation. Is any of your border plan to protect against America coming over the border to annex us?
Canada is an independent country. We will never be the 51st state, and we will have a strong and independent country. And by the way, my Canada First plan will make us more independent and less reliant on the Americans, unlike Mr. Carney, Mr. Trudeau, who have made us helpless facing the Americans. They blocked pipelines, blocked LNG plants. They made us totally helpless on the Americans. And frankly, if I have some advice for President Trump, I'll tell you what it is. He should be sending a big bouquet of flowers to Mark Carney for blocking the Northern Gateway pipeline, to Justin Trudeau for killing the Energy East pipeline, and to all the Liberals for killing our LNG liquefaction plants that would have given us other markets. Because President Trump has been given an incredible gift by these radical anti-development liberals when they block the projects that would have made us more self-reliant. I will make our economy more self-reliant. We will take back control of our lives. We will put our country first. Thank you.
Did you hear that?
What a punk.
Did you hear this? If I have some advice for Trump, send us some flowers because we advice that he's already given actually in previous press conference. Recycle. He's recycling the line about Trump should have sent Carney a bouquet of flowers, and even stuttered and tripped over that.
This man can never be given the reins of power. Never.
He's not it.
No.
That is an embarrassment.
He's trying to look strong and tough, but all he does is argue with journalists when they ask him a question, and he doesn't answer the damn thing.
And he did again. CBC is that? No, actually, I'm CP.
Yeah.
So, you know,
those something he doesn't want to hear, he immediately refers to them. Oh, you're the CBC. No, I'm not. Actually.
Right. So it's like, remember that thing's like that meme that goes around, like somebody's like fixing a car and it looks like the title of a children's book. It's like everything I don't like is woke.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything I don't like is DEI is doing now. Now it's like it's like every question I don't like is from CBC.
He's such an asshole.
Really? Such a complete. So we should militarize our border. Yes, we can't say no to putting the banking sector on the table. Can't say yes to putting oil on the table. Right? And we'll never be the 51st state. And my advice is to Trump is to send Mark Carney a bouquet of flowers. Mark Carney didn't make any decisions, as Mark Carney has been saying repeatedly in interviews and making quite a lot of sense and knocking them out of the park. They consulted with me. They did not take all of my advice. Mark Carney was not the author of the plan.
No.
They went to someone with knowledge to consult. He gave them his best advice. They took some, they left some. It's not like Mark Carney came out and said, here's a plan, what you need to do, hand it to the Liberals, and the Liberals said, wow, this is great. We'll just wholesale do this. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you, Mark Carney.
I don't think Trump recognizes the damage he's doing to his country right now.
I said that yesterday.
He doesn't understand. I mean, he's an idiot. He's an idiot and a narcissist. He's always right no matter what. But I'm seeing so much blowback from this from around the world.
Yes.
People in the UK, people in Greenland, we're buying Canadian products.
Yeah.
They're pulling American products off their shelves around the world.
Yes.
I see Canadians online saying, we've owned property in Florida for 15 years. We're selling it and never going back.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that from a lot of people.
Yep. Well, and here's what happened, how this relates to yesterday, right? Because everything's in the timing. So he comes out of this, after Claudia Sheinbaum from the president of Mexico gets the deal saying that there'll be a 30-day reprieve. He comes out and says, we too need to militarize our border. Mm-hmm. Clearly not knowing that the National Guard had been in Mexico on the border for the longest time and even in greater numbers than the 10,000 that she promised. But clearly he did not know that. So basically, sacrifice everything, Canada, change your entire identity, change who you are, do something you have not needed to do since 1812, something that you hang your hat on as being part of the Canadian identity. We have the longest undefended border for the longest time, right? We're proud of that. Just throw that all into the garbage, erase that in order to maybe get a 1-month reprieve. Because it had not been promised. It's not like Trump said, if you do the same thing Mexico does, we'll get that 1-month reprieve too. He was just guessing. But he was willing to sacrifice all that, put all that money into all those things above the $1.3 billion that we've already put, I guess, and change our essence as a nation to maybe get a 1-month reprieve. Mm-hmm. That's how much he was willing to sacrifice. When we are in a way stronger economic position than Mexico, and we have way more leverage. We don't have tons of leverage, but we definitely have more
leverage.
And on top of that, it's not like the president of Mexico is necessarily the most solid in her position, right? They have the whole cartels thing going on in Mexico, and the tenure of a president is sometimes limited by other people deciding that your time is up in Mexico. So that's not the same situation here. We're a vastly different context. And he's going to, on the press conference, basically announcing to Trump that he's prepared for Canada to present itself to the United States as if it was Mexico. We have a terrible border problem. We have all the drugs. We have all the crime like this. We need to do that. We got these drug labs over here. It's like this. Yes, we are Mexico. Yes, we are Mexico. And I'm not saying this to slag Mexico or throw Mexico under the bus. Mexico's a partner, and we should be doing more work with them on this. But our realities are vastly different. So Mexico gets the reprieve. He comes out. He does that. I'm a big leader. This because we didn't get the reprieve and Mexico did. So Justin Trudeau must have failed. So I'm going to go there and I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to make this big thing. Look how far I'm willing to go. This is how much we should go. And meanwhile, we still have Danielle Smith saying, "Oh no, please don't retaliate. Oil is only 10% and not 25%, and I'm going to take credit for that. So whatever you do, do not retaliate. Don't provoke them to turn around and say 25. You guys retaliated, made it for dollar. Whatever, you fuckers, you got 30 then. Boom. Please don't do that. Please. He put 10% on oil for a reason, Boo Boo Kitty. Mm-hmm. Not 25. He's not going to turn around and say. His biggest worry is that we're going to turn around and say, "Oh no, you said 25 on everything. Well, let's make it 25 on everything. Well, you did 10% on oil. Well, good. Extra 15% export duty on us. Now you got 25, buddy. Merry fucking Christmas." Okay, so that's what he did not want as a response. Because the one thing you have to understand about Donald Trump, kids and cubs, Chantal Hebert has made this point many times and very clear, is that Donald Trump does not have the appetite for a long fight. He cannot tolerate pain.
No, he can't.
He cannot tolerate pain. And
he's a bone spur deferral.
Well, number one, I mean, that's the most blatant,
right?
Obvious. But in there, right, when he's talking about Donald Trump sort of brought up the banking sector out of the blue yesterday. It's a new thing because it always shifts. Right? There's a CBC article here. It goes, until this point, Trump has framed the tariffs as a way to hit back at Canada for the ongoing trade deficit and supposed inaction on drugs and migrants crossing the northern border into the U.S. His stated concerns about banking fairness are a new development. And that's why I've been saying from the beginning, kids and cubs, let's not make deals or put things on the table until we know what his ask is. And I think we're finally getting to what his ask is. A number of American banks do business in Canada with large lending and commercial and investment banking operations, among other functions on this side of the 49th parallel. Personal banking in Canada is largely the domain of Canadian-based banks due to stringent federal regulations designed to protect against bank failures. According to government figures, Canada's large banks hold more than 93% of all domestic banking assets. Canadian banks are routinely ranked among the safest in the world, and that more than 93% of all domestic banking assets are assets that he would like to get his hands on. Especially some that are very, very safe, because I have a feeling that he's going to need a lot of money soon. He's coming after our banks. That's what he wants. So all the $1.3 billion on this or on that like this was all useless. Shouldn't have done it. Didn't necessarily need to do it. We could have just said, yeah, up until the last moment. The tariffs are coming. The tariffs are coming. They might come. They might not come. Saturday was, they may come like this. Sunday, oh yeah, no, they're definitely coming. And what do I keep on saying about this guy? This guy keeps on changing his mind until it is decided, it's not decided. And we got those later in the day. All of a sudden, yeah, they were coming. Like this, coming so much that stores in Canada had started putting the Canadian stickers on, whatnot. And we had made the announcements that we were pulling the booze. Canadians got so mad that they were booing.
Yeah, national anthems.
All right. Like, last time, apparently, that we booed a national anthem was in 2003 when the United States decided it was going into Iraq, and we decided we weren't going to have any part of that dumbassery. Before that, I can't remember in Canada ever booing anybody's national anthem. Not only the United States, anybody at all. I cannot think of a single instance of that going on. So he says Trump, in a social media post after his call with Trudeau, chastised Canada for not allowing U.S. banks to, quote, open or do business there, which of course is not true because they do business here and we do business there. There's TDs in the United States and whatnot, right? So we know what it is that he seems to want now. And then the Prime Minister has further conversations, because there were two conversations. Now remember, Trump did not have a single conversation with the Prime Minister since the inauguration. That's another power trip type thing. But then all of a sudden, he wants two in the same day. Why would you want two conversations? The first one and then another one, if there isn't something that's going to be planned? If there's nothing that we can do and nothing that can be said, that's what we were left with the night before. That was the cliffhanger before we went to bed. There's nothing that we can do. There's nothing that we can say. They're coming. It's coming. You just resolve yourself. It's happening. And then the next morning, whoops, he changed his mind again with Mexico, which kind of left the door open to him changing his mind with us. And, yep, sure enough, Trudeau posted to social media after the second call, and after Pierre came up and said, hey, militarize our border, that the tariffs on Canadian goods are also paused, pointing to an updated border strategy. He said 10,000 frontline personnel who are and will be working on protecting the border and committed to appointing a new fentanyl czar who will lead Canada's efforts to crack down on fentanyl, a chief concern of Trump's. The Prime Minister promised to list Mexican cartels as terrorists under Canadian law and said Canada agreed to spend an additional $200 million through an intelligence directive to fight fentanyl and organized crime. The Canadian government has already committed $1.3 billion to bolster the border, including surveillance towers. The plan already included surveillance towers that Pierre said, you gotta have dozens of drones, which Pierre called for, which were already in the plan, and 2 Black Hawk helicopters the RCMP has leased. In December, it promised to strengthen 24/7 surveillance on the border Like Pierre, say, where were you, Pierre, 2 months ago when all this was announced? To curb the flow of illegal fentanyl and irregular migration south and set up a new joint strike force to go after organized crime. There you go. So again, Pierre was out running a pre-victory lap, and then all of a sudden, all the tariffs got paused. You got Danielle Smith running around going, this is a victory for diplomacy. Well, not yours, honey.
No.
And cue Doug Ford soon turn around, because Doug Ford yesterday, after apparently at 8:20 in the morning, and I missed this because I didn't know at the time we did the show, we were doing the show, but canceled the Starlink contract with
and then renewed
Elon Musk. Yeah, exactly. Like this contract that nobody understands, because if all the people that would be getting Starlink service actually just got Starlink on their own, paid the $500, it would cost about like $97 million less than the $100 million he's giving. Right. So what's the other $97 or $8 million for? I don't know. So it's like just write everybody a check for $500 so they fund their Starlink. Wouldn't that be much easier? So, and then my thought was, but I'll believe that with it when it lasts, because we know what a Doug Ford promise is worth. I mean, we had
didn't last 8 hours.
He promised to his Greenbelt buddies that he would touch that stuff, and then word of it got out. Then he promised all of us, no, we're not going to do that. And then he got elected, and he had his hands. He was humping it like Trump on an American flag, feeling up the Greenbelt all over. Then got caught. Oh no, I won't do it again. And now all of a sudden we got the Service Ontario deal and all these other deals to try to compensate for all the money that would have been gone through the Greenbelt Fund and an RCMP investigation. And he's sitting there and goes, oh no, I'm going to cancel this thing with you. I'll believe it when it lasts if you get reelected, Father Mucker. Okay, number one, because your promise doesn't mean anything. Well, we didn't even have to wait that long, because as soon as Trump decided, hey, we're actually rescinding those tariffs for 30 days, well then Doug Ford, oh well, the Starlink deal is back on. And worse yet, le calice de tabarnak, pardon my French, François Legault, announced yesterday that he's looking now at a Starlink deal.
Yeah, not good.
Stop paying tribute to the man funding the man who keeps on trying to upend us. The fact that we got a 30-day reprieve is not a license to start engaging in deals and business with Elon Musk. Stop it. And Doug Ford, I'm sorry, but you just sold yourself out.
Well,
you never had any intention on canceling that deal, and now that whole Canada is not for sale. You are, buddy. You are. You confirmed it yesterday, because that deal was gone until the reprieve happened, and then all of a sudden, oh no, we're back with Elon Musk now. Now I want his business again. No. You should not want his business. Period.
Bonnie Crombie and Merritt Stiles pounced on Doug Ford's hot mic admission that he 100% wanted Donald Trump to win the election.
Oh.
The PC leader was caught Monday on a hot mic at his Etobicoke campaign office, confiding that he had hoped Trump would beat Harris.
Oh, Doug, you are in trouble now.
The PC leader was caught Monday on a hot mic at his Etobicoke campaign office, hoping that Trump would win. He says, on election day, I was happy this guy won. 100% I was. Then the guy pulled out the knife and fucking yanked it in me, said the Tory leader, doing a stabbing motion with his hand. Ford's main rivals pounced on his candid comments Monday to Tory candidates Christine Hogarth and David Piccini and several members of the Ontario Professional Firefighters Association. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie released a new 60-second ad to highlight the PC leader's apparent hypocrisy by repeatedly playing the clip. I was happy this guy won. Was I happy this guy won? 100% I was. Doug Ford just said he was happy Donald Trump won the election. Happy the guy who campaigned on a trade war with Canada became president, intones a female narrator against footage of Trump boasting the tariff will be substantial in some cases, and that he is a tariff man standing on a tariff platform. He was happy. Was he happy Canadians might lose their jobs? Was he happy about the threat of Canada becoming a 51st state? Or does he just care so little about the people of this province that he saw an attack on Ontario as an opportunity for himself? What else does he say when he thinks you're not listening? Merritt Stiles, new Democratic Party leader, said Tuesday it was no surprise Ford would say that. Doug Ford keeps making the case for why he's not the guy for the job. He says one thing to you and another behind closed doors. We can't trust Ford to get the job done, and we can't trust him to defend Ontario. It's time to show him the door. It's pretty sad, really. Doug Ford loves Trump. Trump doesn't even know who he is.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Why? How do we keep on electing these people? How do these people keep on getting into a position to be elected in the first place? Where the hell is our vetting process?
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. Oh my God. How did we manage to get a Poilievre and a Smith and a Ford all at the same time?
I don't know.
With a Mo. All willing to sell us out. And a Rustad and a Higgs. Vetting. The admission standards are too low.
All right, we got to wrap up.
Oh my God. Okay. So, just to finish off the point with regard to the tariffs and stuff. And if you need to go, I can do the close off.
Yeah, I got to go because she's the old puppy dog is getting antsy here. So I will bid you adieu. Mr.
Okay.
Beaver will take the closing of the program, and my words of wisdom are: stay strong in the face of hypocrisy, in the face of idiocy, in the face of bad people wanting to do bad things. You're only as strong as the weakest link, so make sure everybody gets propped up.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Grizzly. And I hope you have a wonderful walk with Lola. So, yeah. Changed his mind. We have the reprieve. You have people like Francois that go saying, okay, and Doug Ford saying, well, I guess we can get back to business as usual. I don't understand. So here's the thing about the booing the national anthems and what Chantal Hébert said about Donald Trump. Right? He does the shock and awe thing and he hits hard and fast because he wants the quick win. Right? If he can bring you to your knees really quickly and you go, uncle, and then he goes, hey, I won. Now, the thing with Donald Trump is that no matter what happens, he's going to say he won. So you always have to leave him some type of save face exit ramp for some reason, which in one way kind of pisses me off because when we do that, we allow him to get something that he can do the propaganda in his own nation to help sustain himself. But I mean, at some point, you got to make some choices. But Canada, from the get-go, at least from our Prime Minister's perspective, said this was not on, it was not going to happen, and if he did that, we would retaliate. And Trump kept on pushing. And the Prime Minister never said anything other. The President said he had something having to do with fentanyl and stuff like that. We took him at his word. The first time. We put out a plan. Apparently that wasn't good enough. Now, whether or not that plan actually got to the president or not, we don't know. Because he hadn't talked to the Prime Minister since the inauguration, and we don't know how good his aides are at bringing news to him. So we got some yes, we got some no's, we got some yes, we got some no's. But throughout all of it, the Prime Minister remained constant. Which is kind of interesting. While everybody else was running around, throwing Mexico under the bus, saying we need to give this away, we need to give that away. The Prime Minister was simply, we will never be 51st state. That's not happening. If you do it, we will have dollar for dollar retaliation. We'll do some of the same things we did last time. We already have the team going out. But like we've been here before. It's not my first rodeo. You got Danielle Smith trying to move the goalposts left, right, and center to try to trade credit no matter how the story shifts. But I think it's very clear that even if she had tried to crow victory on the first 10%, she can't do it now because if that was a concession to her, then it wasn't her who ended it, who obtained that concession, because then Trump afterwards agreed to remove that 10%. So the federal government can just say, well, no, we did that. We got that down from 25 to 10% in the original. And then we kept on talking and we got that down to 0. Danielle Smith had nothing to do with it. Right? That narrative is out there. But the thing I'm wondering is if it was not Canadians booing, the U.S. national anthem. That might have been the thing that sealed the deal, because this guy cannot stand any public embarrassment, and this guy cannot stand public shaming. He's got a very, very thin ego, and his entire identity is, well, everybody loves Trump. Well, it's kind of hard to maintain that self-image of yours, a delusional self-image of yours that everybody loves Trump, when you're seeing Canadians, of all people on the planet, Canadians booing a national anthem on live TV. And it is so outstanding that it catches everybody's attention. It's, oh my God, Canadians are booing, that it goes around the world, literally. And it happens at an Ottawa Senators game, and then happens at a Raptors game. So now across sports. Now, picture this. How many more NHL games are left this year in which a Canadian team will play an American team, and then Stanley Cup? How many more Raptors games? All the games they play are against American teams, because there's only one Canadian team in the NBA. How many more of those games and potentially playoff games are in the season? And now let's say that expands to baseball, where again, there's only one Canadian team, and soccer and other competitions. And then events at which national anthems are played that have nothing to do with sports. That's a lot of occasions for a lot of booing over a long and sustained period of time. Maybe somebody couldn't handle that. Maybe. Good job, Canada. You hit him where it hurts. His ego. Well done. Put that in the back pocket. We might need it again. He has no endurance for this type of thing. Those are images he does not want circulating. So you put a stop to that. Now, Kids and Cubs. Because we got a temporary reprieve for 30 days, because that sword is still hanging over our heads, of course, because he likes that. He gets off on that. That makes his nipples hard. Right? That does not mean the boycott is over. Susan Holt says, hey, yeah, the American stuff that's still on the shelves like this, okay, fine, we can sell that, but we will not be placing new orders for the next 30 days until such time as we know what's going to happen. I would like to see commitment like that from Doug Ford and everybody else too, also, who had decided that we weren't going to be selling American booze for a while. Like, okay, yeah, the stuff that you have on the shelves, we will still sell like this, but we will not be ordering anything for another 30 days until we see what you got up, or until we have a finalized deal. And for the rest of us, yeah, okay, it might be so that, buying Canadian whatnot won't make a huge, huge dent in the U.S. economy. Maybe not. But, I mean, they've shown us who they are. Right? You can't think of it as being in a marriage. Okay. 150-year marriage or more. So let's say you've been in a marriage, right? And it says, if you don't do this thing that I need you to do, I'm leaving this marriage. And you keep on trying to get your way in the marriage by threatening by leaving. Well, at some point, somebody's going to say, oh, get the fuck out then. Somebody's going to call your bluff. Right? You don't threaten things that you're not really, really, honestly ready to follow through on. And you certainly don't threaten them to get what you want. You do not put at risk your relationship in order to get something smaller that you want if you're not actually willing to walk away from that relationship. It's a terrible thing to do to someone else. That's psychologically abusive and emotionally abusive on a scale that's almost evil. We've been friends. We've been good partners. Twice in 7 years, you've tried to kneecap our economy. And this time, you're doing it while musing about economic annexation. Or maybe absorbing us in some way. As Elizabeth May said, to paraphrase, that shit ain't funny. And if it was a joke, we never laughed. And you all should have stopped laughing long ago. Because it ain't funny. We may have gotten a 30-day temporary reprieve, but our change of heart is kind of permanent. You tried to pull the rug out from under us. You threatened our safety and our security. You threatened us existentially in order to get a win. We will not forget that. If you're thinking, oh, well, we get to go back to being friends now, no. You changed the game, buddy. You cannot be trusted. So, as far as I'm concerned, the boycott is still on. Boycott Post Media. And I know that this thing here I'm saying is ironic because, hey, we're on Facebook and we're on Twitter. Right? Facebook now, we're allowed to say of rainbow people that they've got mental issues and they're removing the fact checking and, well, the bad place, we know what it's become. And we've built our entire business on these platforms. Right? If we left them all of a sudden out of a fit of principle, we would destroy ourselves. We understand the irony that sometimes you don't have the choice to be completely noble. But sometimes there are things that we can do, like, for example, when we ask for our coffee payments through coffee, there's a portion of that that goes through PayPal, which is, again, some of the tech bros that are supporting this Donald Trump guy. So we can ask you, our viewers, if you were going to give us a tip to send it through direct deposit, because then if there's any transaction fee, it actually goes to a Canadian bank rather than PayPal. That is something that we can do without trying to upend our entire business. So yes, we do have to make some choices. Yes, but hey, don't have things delivered through Amazon anymore. If you're using Amazon in your business, well, use your Pure Leader more. Right? Shopify, even though it's Canadian, CEO has been posting lots of rebel type stuff. So remember, not all buying Canadian was actually a good Canadian. So, maybe you want to take a pass on Shopify as well. Maybe you want to take a pass on sharing actual links to anything post media, which includes the Sunchain. Maybe you want to write letters to your MPs telling them to cut the subsidies, the press subsidies to all post media, and redirect them to things like Press Progress or The Observer or the Trillium or the Narwhal that are actually Canadian and actually care about journalism. There are still things that we can do. We still can decide not to vacation. He still has the knife to our throats. That's why I don't understand Doug Ford and Elon Musk, Doug Ford and François Legault wanting to do business with Elon Musk all over again now. We're going to do this. We're going to threaten you. Oh, no, at the last minute. No. That's not a trust-building exercise. We don't wake up today and everything is like it was before. This relationship has changed. There is a crack in the mirror. And every time we look into the mirror, we will see that crack. They betrayed us. And again, I'm sorry, but if you know us, you know we are passive aggressive as fuck as Canadians. So, yeah, what they did is not friendship. And what does that say about our self-respect for ourselves as a country? Is we just turn around, oh no, that's okay. Don't worry, bygones. Not with this guy, not with this crew. Sorry. And this is not a slight against the American people. Right? Yes, we understand that a good chunk of American people voted for this guy. A plurality, not a majority, not by much, but we understand. But we understand that there's a difference between the American people and the American government, because this is not the first time as Canadians that we've had issues with the American government. So, right, we still need to maintain our friendships individually, one-on-one, and our connections between groups and whatnot, cross-border stuff, right? Having a problem with the current U.S. government does not mean necessarily having a problem with Americans. We need to be clear on that. But when it comes to the word of the United States on any type of document, agreement, or whatnot, we can't trust that anymore. And the world can't either anymore. That's been destroyed. That's why I said yesterday, Americans, and especially Republican Americans, Retrumplican Americans, do not know, just do not know, and do not have an appreciation for just how badly Donald Trump screwed up the reputation of his nation by doing this thing that he just did. And all to what? Got a lot of ink in the press, got his name out, be talked about a lot, scare people, destabilize them a little bit, but ultimately impose nothing. I don't know, man. I don't know. All right. I think that's enough on that today, because we did a little more in depth than I thought we would by doing both of Pierre's videos today. Was originally just planning to do one, but you know what? I think ultimately it was good to see both of them in this case. The one thing I want to sort of leave you with is that when it comes to the Prime Minister specifically, after all the wind and the air that we have moved on this file, all the ink that's been spilled, wouldn't it be ironic in a certain way if it turned out to be that the guy who all along throughout this process, all along, did not panic, remained calm, didn't propose throwing Mexico under the bus, did not propose militarizing our border, did not plead to spare energy as well as not retaliate, ended up having the right approach all along. Justin Trudeau, quote, "I just had a good call with President Trump. Canada is implementing our $1.3 billion border plan, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, and personnel, enhanced coordination with our American partners, and increased resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canada-U.S. joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I have also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we will be backing it with $200 million. Proposed tariffs will be paused for at least 30 days while we work together." And all done without sacrificing our identity, as Pierre would, by militarizing the border, and without throwing Mexico, a trusted partner, as Doug Ford wants us to, under the bus. No yelling, no screaming, no threats. Quiet, calm diplomacy. Just saying. I'm just saying. Compare your alternatives to each other. We have a better leader than we have been led to believe that we have. Far from perfect. But when it comes to loyalty to Canada, we have no doubt where this guy stands. Right? Okay. Last little thing I wanted to mention before we go. For those of you who need some hope with regard to what's going on with the government. We've been reporting on polling from ECOS and polling from other companies that show that there has been a tightening. And yesterday, well, Sunday, I should say, 338canada.com did its weekly modeling of what that looks like now. And I just want to bring a little note to your attention, because one of the things that we were wondering is this thing that ECOS is seeing and Main Street a little bit is seeing. If it was true, is this an actual real trend? And we did see things in other pollsters, polling companies, not as sharp as ECOS and Main Street, but we did see them. So the seat modeling came out, and I want you to follow me here because I'm going to paint a little picture. 4 reporting periods ago, the Conservative Party of Canada's seat lead over the Liberals was 201. 3 weeks ago, it was 200. So only went down by 1. 2 weeks ago was 197. So it went down by 3 more. So it went down by 1, went down by 3. Last week it was 191, went down by 6. This week it is 157. That's a bigger drop. That's a 34 seat. So 44 seat recuperation by the Liberals in 4 reporting periods. 34 of those 44 in the most recent one. It would appear that something is happening and is picking up speed. Now, with these numbers, based on the modeling, it's still 220 seats for the Conservatives, 63 for the Liberals, 44 for the Bloc. It's still a majority, right, for the Conservatives. But if the numbers that ECOS and Main Street have seen are lagging numbers for the other polling companies based on how they do their modeling and their sampling, and ECOS saw this happening about 2 or 3 weeks ago already, there might be 2 or 3 more weeks of growth left in these numbers. And if they are happening at a rate of about 30 or 34 seats per week, that could explain why the Conservatives are panicking, because they're seeing where things might eventually be going. Main Street had another poll come out recently, and for their Ontario voters for federal only, they now, last time I think they showed the Liberals in the lead by a little bit. Now the lead is 3, still within the margin of error, of course, but a bit of a broader lead. And according to Evan Scripshaw, that would make the Ontario election results very similar to what they were in 2021 for the Liberals, which was good enough to secure them a minority parliament, right? So for those of you who want to have hope, there is a little bit of hope there. Evan Scrimshaw does make the point, if you are reading his stuff, that he is not sure anymore whether or not his willingness to entertain the possibility that this might not be over is more linked to this fact that he really does not want to be over and he wants this trend to be true than whether or not it actually is. We still need some more numbers to corroborate that, to see if that is indeed the case. But for those of you who do want some reason to hope, please do. Now, for those of you in the Ontario election who maybe had a little bit of hope because Main Street was showing some numbers showing that the race was tightening just as it was starting, it seems that that has not maintained itself after 1 week into the election. So the possibility of things not going great for Doug Ford in terms of the ultimate outcome seem to be lessened, unfortunately, unless this hot mic thing can be played in the right way and can start to affect him. Because if Doug Ford actually wanted Trump to win, knowing that Trump wanted to start a trade war, that adds a lot of color and texture to Doug Ford's current campaign, I would say. All right. Stay tuned. Kids and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. And you have the mouth from which we want the words to come. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. Now, Kids and Cubs, if you would like to support us, for example, by making sure that you do not miss an episode, particularly if you are downloading us, well, you don't have to miss one because of the Ray Girl. She sponsors our pod page, podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver. That's lowercase letters, although the case doesn't really matter, with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there and you click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. How about that? We make it super easy. Now, if you would like to support us in other ways, then maybe you would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can do that by scanning that QR code that has just appeared, or by surfing yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page and making like Kit Elaine and clicking on our buttons, like, share, and subscribe. And if you're watching live, remember, if you smash the button early, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave, as Kit Elaine likes to remind us. So please smash with us. We love it. We're very frisky and friendly people. All right. Now, if you would like to support us in yet another way, let's say, for example, financially, because it does cost us a little bit of money to do this show. So if you would like to help us underwrite the costs of bringing this show to you, that we hope that you love and enjoy. Oops.